Chapter 621. God Tree? Several people exclaimed. Although they haven't seen the legendary God Tree, they have heard from the Alliance that the God Tree is the true body of the Jubi, the most terrifying and cruel existence in the world. Sasori nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, even an ordinary bijou is so cruel, the legendary Jubi shouldn't be willing to sacrifice itself. Aizen's eyes were indifferent. He learned a lot of things from the Ichibi and the Jubi, including the relationship between Otsutsuki and the God Tree. He used to think that the God Tree was just a pet and tool of Otsutsuki. But now it seems that this is not the case. Before the God Tree blossoms and bears fruit, it needs to sacrifice Otsutsuki, and after the chakra fruit is taken, it needs all the life on the planet as nourishment. Kagaya violated this agreement and sacrificed Otsutsuki's broken body to the God Tree, took the chakra fruit, and saved the people at that time. The Jubi went berserk because of this, but it was suppressed by Kagaya, who ate the chakra fruit. It was because of this that Kagaya was worshipped by the people at that time as the goddess of Uno. This is the complete history. After all, with the strength of the Otsutsuki clan, even if Kagaya didn't eat the chakra fruit, it would be easy for her to calm the war on the planet. Therefore, the chaos she calmed at that time was actually caused by the Jubi. From this point, it can be seen that Otsutsuki and the God Tree are equal in status, a symbiotic relationship. After that, the Six Paths learned a lesson and creatively developed the Six Paths, Jubi Seal, becoming the first Jinchuriki, turning the symbiotic relationship into an enslavement relationship. Of course, for people who don't have strong enough will, the enslavement relationship may be reversed. Thinking of this, Aizen thought in his heart, before counterattacking Otsutsuki, I must popularize the Six Paths, Jubi Seal among the higher-ups. If we encounter a combination of Otsutsuki and the Jubi, we can directly use the Jubi Seal to break their arms, and even turn Otsutsuki's power into our own. However, there aren't many people in the shinobi world who have the ability to suppress the Jubi's consciousness. Although he can't mass-produce Otsutsuki, he can mass-produce the Jubi's Jinchuriki. Kagaya, Ichikushi, two people in a team brought a divine tree, indicating that the divine tree is very common in the Otsutsuki clan. As long as there are enough Jinchuriki vessels in the shinobi world, maybe they can obtain power comparable to the Otsutsuki clan by relying on this ability alone. Just as Aizen's thoughts were about the distant stars, a powerful aura erupted from his body. He shouted excitedly, Aizen, Sama, I did it. Aizen smiled, hurry up and familiarize yourself with your power. The final battle is about to begin. In a dimensional space that resembled a wasteland. Three-headed eagle's face revealed a human-like look of shock. He screamed in horror, White Snake, you didn't tell us that the Shell organization is the weakest among the three major forces. The Wild Boar King said in an unfriendly tone, is this how you deceive your old friend? They thought that Otsutsuki, who saved them, was the leader of another organization. But he didn't expect that Otsutsuki Tonari was just a member of that organization. The Shell organization has Otsutsuki as its leader, and the Hollow has Otsutsuki as its subordinate. The gap between them suddenly widened. White Snake Sage said with a smile, I didn't lie to you. I was very kind when I told you that there was no Otsutsuki in the Shinobi Alliance, there was one in the Hollow, and there were two in the Shell organization. It was you who didn't listen to me and clamored to join the Shell organization. It doesn't make sense to blame me now, does it? Three-headed Eagle and Wild Boar King felt bitter in their hearts. How could they know that there were monsters above Otsutsuki in those two forces? Moreover, their understanding of the world is still the same as before they were sealed. At that time, humans were just their slaves and food. They didn't think that the power of humans could reach such heights. White Snake Sage continued, besides, you used to feed on humans, do you really think that you can be accepted by humans? The bird and the pig didn't speak. After a moment of silence, Three-headed Eagle asked in a sharp voice, why did you surrender? You should be like a toad and a slug, easier to be accepted by those humans, right? White Snake Sage didn't mention that he condoned his descendants to eat humans. He hummed and said, of course, it's because I believe in Otsutsuki. Although the two lords are slightly declining now, Otsutsuki's foundation is not comparable to those humans. The pig and the bird nodded subconsciously. They had such a mentality. That was a real starry sky force. It was the greatest honor to be Otsutsuki's dog. Wasn't a domestic dog much more comfortable than a wild dog? At this moment, in the dimensional space, a shining and gorgeous beam of light shot straight into the sky. What is that? Why do I feel the aura of the two lords in that beam of light? Is it an illusion? Evil God, who had been silent, suddenly said, "It's not an illusion. They have merged into one." The next moment, a tall figure suddenly appeared in front of them, giving them a fright. What appeared in their eyes was the Otsutsuki one peach from the left and the peach from the right. Just when the monsters were in doubt, Otsutsuki Itamo spoke. His indifferent tone was filled with incomparable confidence. "Get ready for war, I'm going to destroy this planet." The monsters looked at each other and tacitly ignored the fact that only Otsutsuki was left and responded loudly, "Yes." At the same time, they couldn't help but praise themselves for their wit. They knew that Otsutsuki still had a backup plan, but they didn't expect it to be a fusion. Perceiving the powerful aura coming from Otsutsuki Itsumomo, the monsters were happy. This war was stable. If they had the ability, why not let Shimizu Garashi and Aizen Sosuke fuse together? 3 days later, in the central building of the Ninja Alliance. Garashi sensed his body with a strange expression. "I didn't expect that the first Kekii Genkai I developed would be this ability." Unlike Kekii Genkai and Kekii Genkai elimination, Kekii Genkai was all-encompassing. There was no so-called escape technique division, only the realm of carrying power. Genjutsu such as Infinite Tsukuyomi was a Kekii Genkai net. Space abilities such as Heaven's Defense and Yomiuri could also be a Kekii Genkai net. Auxiliary abilities such as Heavenly Tree World's Descent, Rabbit Hair Needle, 80 Gods Air Attack, and Grey Bone Kill are also Kekii Genkai net. Just when Garashi was thinking secretly, Rikudo suddenly flashed in and reported in a dignified tone, "Leader, the monsters of the Shell organization have led the undead army from the underworld to launch a general attack." Garashi knocked on the table. "I didn't expect that the first one who couldn't wait was Otsutsuki. Since they want to die, let's fulfill their wish." Chapter 622. In the endless field, normal humans, white Zetsu, and undead, the three armies lined up neatly, giving people a sense of majesty and solemnity. However, the mentality of the three armies is completely different. The ninjas on the Alliance side are passionate and generous. They firmly believe that their leader can lead them to victory. The white Zetsu of the Akatsuki organization are drifting with the tide without their own ideas. The undead of the Shell organization are slacking. If it weren't for the Pure Land, they would have already rebelled on the spot. On the one hand, these undead don't want to be pulled up to work and receive blessings after death. On the other hand, they don't want to fight for the enemy of the ninja world. Unfortunately, they have no choice. In the crowd, Hashirama was speechless. "The last time we were resurrected by the Akatsuki, it was a civil war. This time, we were resurrected by the Shell organization. How did we become traitors to humanity? Was the Pure Lands reliable or not? Why do I feel that it is dedicated to training soldiers for the enemy?" Looking at the monsters in front of the army, Tobarama nodded. "I heard from those monsters that the Pure Land was snatched from the hands of the Six Paths Sennin. This Six Paths Sennin is really bad. Otsutsuki, Sage of the Six Paths." Hashirama's expression was complicated. "I didn't expect that when I resurrected again, the world had already undergone earth-shaking changes." He naturally remembered how shocked he was when he heard the story of Otsutsuki from those monsters. Even the legendary Sage of the Six Paths is the descendant of Otsutsuki. However, what shocked him even more was the current situation of the ninja world. The human forces are not falling behind in front of the star races, and they are even steadily suppressing them. The Akatsuki organization has Otsutsuki as a subordinate, and the Ninja Alliance has incorporated the Sage of the Six Paths into their system. Thinking of this, Hashirama couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, there is a hero like Garashi in this era, otherwise, humanity may be extinct. Hearing his elder brother mention the boy he saw when he was resurrected last time, Tobarama couldn't help but sigh. He was more rational than Hashirama, so he was more shocked when he accepted this fact. He used to think that if his elder brother didn't die too early, his achievements would definitely not be lower than that boy. But now, fuck his elder brother, the leader is invincible. Tobirama said in a deep voice. Although we are now helpless, Garashi will definitely stop us. They were not the only ones. There were whispers everywhere in the dead crowd. The Raikage sighed with melancholy. I didn't expect that kid to have such achievements. AI is better at reading people than I am. The Mizukage raised his chin high. Do you know how I died? I was killed by Shimizu Garashi and a dozen wood-leaf ninjas. Not only the people of this era were resurrected, but also the ninjas from the Warring States period, and even the ninjas from 1,000 years ago to the Shinobi era. These people were shocked by the development of the future, and when they heard the third Mizukage self-narration, they were shocked. I didn't expect there to be such a big shot among the undead. My apologies. Although the morale of the army was unstable, to the extent that they were completely leaning towards the other side, One Peach did not mind and did not stop them from discussing. If it was said that he'd thought highly of the undead army in the past, then he didn't really care about them now. They were just consumables. One Peach calmly walked out of the camp and flew to the middle area of the three sides. Shimizu Garashi, Aizen Sosuke, come out. Hearing his words, the people on the Alliance's side were all stunned. Soon after, they laughed out loud with evil intentions. Is this idiot looking for death? He's not the opponent of either of them, who gave him the courage to stand out. However, some sharp-eyed people noticed something was wrong. Why is there only one Otsutsuki? Why does it feel like the left and right sides of this guy's face were pieced together by two people? A figure flew out from each side. Looking at the enemy, Aizen chuckled softly. I thought you would devour the other side. Did you fuse together? According to the last information Kimimaro sent before he fell asleep, Peach attacked Otsutsuki, who was in the middle of the reincarnation ritual, but Otsutsuki was already prepared for it, so neither of them had any advantage. Otsutsuki didn't dare to release Peach, fearing that he would continue to destroy the ritual. Peach didn't dare to release Otsutsuki, fearing that Otsutsuki would come after him after he regained his strength. Both sides were in a difficult position, so they chose to temporarily fuse together. Yi Tao didn't know that her background had been completely exposed. She was still indifferently saying, you can still laugh at this moment. I'm rather impressed by your mental fortitude. Shushi crossed his arms. You didn't call us out just to chat with us, did you? Nothing else, I just don't want to do what you want. One Peach smiled contemptuously. I won't give you the chance to create a planet's consciousness, and there's no need to continue the war, because I will kill you here. Kill us? Aizen looked at Garashi with interest. Shimizu Garashi, what do you think? Garashi smiled calmly. Since someone can't see the situation clearly, we'll help him see it clearly. For them, the current situation was far from troublesome. Otsutsuki had only fused together in a special way. It didn't mean that one side had swallowed the other. If it was Otsutsuki's self-sacrifice, then it would be troublesome. To be precise, Otsutsuki's self-sacrifice was to fully unleash one's potential. Fusion was just a simple superposition, and there were certain restrictions. In the last ninja tournament, his and Aizen's combat power was 10,000, Otsutsuki's combat power was 9,500, and Otsutsuki's combat power was 7,000. Otsutsuki's combat power could reach 30,000 after devouring Otsutsuki. Because combat power wasn't equal to potential, eating Otsutsuki in the form of a chakra fruit could fully unleash Otsutsuki's potential. As for now, because of the restrictions, their combined combat power couldn't be compared to their natural combination. At most, they had 15,000 combat power. Of course, even so, it was already very powerful. Combat wasn't as simple as adding and subtracting combat power. Under normal circumstances, one 15,000 combat power was far more powerful than two 10,000 combat power. But the problem was that he and Aizen were no longer the same as they were a few days ago. People's blessings and fear of Aizen had allowed him to advance by leaps and bounds in the Shinigami system. He was constantly converting the power of the Hogyoku into his own strength. Also, stepping into the realm of Kekkei Genkai had allowed his strength to increase rapidly. Compared to a few days ago, his strength had increased by at least 30%. Help me understand the situation? Do you have the strength to do so? Otsutsuki, whose way of thinking was still a few days ago, laughed and attacked the two at the same time. A pair of large hands covered the sky as if they were grabbing the stars and the moon. No, this guy's strength has increased a lot. He's not Otsutsuki or Otsutsuki at all. He's a fusion of the two. Oh no, the leader is in danger. Just as everyone was shocked, they saw Otsutsuki fall to the ground like a meteor. The originally empty field was instantly smashed into a huge crater. Otsutsuki lay in the crater, doubting his life. Did he accidentally travel to the future? In just a few days, how did those two monsters become stronger? Was there any justice in this world? Chapter 623. At their level, the improvement of their strength was almost in the hundreds of years. Although Otsutsuki was mostly lazy, it was still outrageous for him to improve his strength so much in just a few days. One Peach felt like he was being targeted. Nothing good had happened to him since he came to this planet. After a moment of anger, he calmed down. Although the two's growth was faster than he expected, it wasn't a big problem. He could feel that the two monsters weren't as strong as him. He was sent flying because he was too confident. He attacked both of them at the same time and was caught off guard. As long as he focused his firepower and killed one of them, victory would still be his. I'm bullying the weak. I have the advantage. One Peach regained his confidence and flew out of the pit. Don't think. Before he could even finish his sentence, Rinsei and Aizen appeared on his left and right sides in a flash. One swung his fist while the other swung his sword. Again? One Peach was furious. He ignored Aizen and swung his right leg at Shushi like an axe. Spiral meteor burst. Garashi clenched his fist and crushed the spiral meteor core hidden in his palm. Suddenly, the energy of the four major systems rushed out from his fingers and formed a storm around his fist. It was going to destroy the world. This bastard tricked me. One Peach's eyes widened. He thought Aizen was going to compete with him in terms of physical strength. Too insidious. He didn't care about martial ethics. Boom! Under Garashi's tyrannical punch, the originally calm space shattered like a mirror. Black cracks crawled across the space. The turbulence from the void almost tore One Peach's body apart. Space solidification. Tao gritted his teeth and suppressed the spatial turbulence, but before he could relax, he heard a piercing sound and a black longsword pierced through his chest. Pfft! One Peach spat out a mouthful of blood. He turned around and saw Aizen nailing him to the void with a longsword. Why is it the truth-seeking jade? Peach was confused. Aizen's weapon was just an ordinary sword, and he didn't have that kind of power last time. Without waiting for him to come back to his senses, Garashi rushed forward again, clasped his hands together, and smashed his head like a heavy hammer. Tao was sent flying and almost fell out of the combined state. Damned bastard, don't think that you can beat me with a sneak attack. One Peach roared angrily. Ignoring his bleeding body, he forcefully activated Shinra Tensei. An incomparably powerful repulsive force erupted from his body. Under the superposition of the golden Rinnegan, the repulsive force almost turned into a storm, and even Garashi and Aizen were sent flying. While the two were separated, One Peach quickly activated Yomi no Bai and appeared in front of Aizen. She accelerated and shot the shrunken moon towards Aizen. After the moon came out of the eye technique space, it quickly returned to its original size, but its speed did not slow down at all. After being hit by the moon, Aizen's body exploded and turned into dust. But in the next moment, a brand new Aizen walked out of the illusion. One Peach's face was very ugly. He was completely suppressed by Aizen last time. He didn't know that Aizen had such a trick up his sleeve. It's fine that this guy can revive, but I can't feel any weakness from him. After the moon collided with Aizen, it didn't slow down at all as it continued to crash towards the ground. Although the moon in this world wasn't as big as the moon in Garashi's previous world, when such a star appeared in the sky, the impact was immeasurable. Tides rose in the sea, and mountains collapsed. The most important thing was that the moon was gradually being torn apart by the gravity of the earth. If this continued, both the moon and the earth would be destroyed, and Kaguya, who was sealed in the moon, would escape. What a mess. Garashi's face was calm, and there was no trace of panic on his face. Just right, let's use the moon as the final battlefield. After merging with the three holy lands, the dream world too. Zero instantly covered the moon. The moment the moon hit the earth, the moon turned into a secret space similar to the three holy lands. This series of unforeseen events happened in the blink of an eye. Without the ability to think beyond time, there was simply no time to react. What the hell just happened? Huh? Did something happen just now? Only a group of Kage-level ninjas could barely see the battle. Using the moon as a weapon, if I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have imagined it. Tobirama was shocked. Hashirama, can you do it? Of course I can't. Hashirama said subconsciously, and then he reacted. Oyaji, why are you here? Bastard, you want me to come and find you? Tobirama cursed. Why did Otsutsuki summon us? With our strength, we can't participate in such a battle. These two fellows actually. Tao frowned. He suddenly noticed that the two of them were looking at him, and his heart skipped a beat. He wanted to use the same trick again, using Shinra Tensei to separate the two of them. However, the same trick was useless against a ninja. Shushi immediately activated Time Freeze. With the combined power of the two of them, they began to beat up One Peach. The duration of Time Freeze was very short. In just a short moment, One Peach quickly regained control of her body. Feeling the pain, One Peach roared. Damn it, don't think you're the only ones who can use Time Freeze. One Peach punched Aizen, kicked Garashi, and at the last moment of Time Freeze, he grabbed Shimizu Garashi's legs and tore him in half. After Time Freeze resumed, One Peach, who was splashed with blood, laughed loudly. Who else? Ah! A shrill scream snapped him out of his excitement. One Peach lowered his head and saw that he had torn a white snake in half. How is this possible? One Peach's eyes widened. He naturally wouldn't apologize to a native, so he threw the white snake aside in disgust. After thinking for a while, One Peach quickly understood. He looked at Aizen angrily. You used genjutsu to affect my vision before Time Freeze? Not too stupid. Aizen clapped his hands and looked to the side. Garashi, get ready to beat him. Garashi said concisely. Beat him. Under the tacit cooperation of their Time Freeze illusion, in just a few seconds, One Peach was beaten to the point of doubting life. Based on his shallow combat knowledge, he should be the one with the upper hand. He wasn't strong enough to crush them, but the other side shouldn't have any cooperation experience. But these two had never cooperated before, so how could they have such tacit understanding? Could this be the so-called battle awareness of the strong? Chapter 624. Seeing Otsutsuki being beaten in public, everyone's tight heartstrings finally relaxed. I thought they would be more powerful after fusing. So that's it? He's already very powerful, but he doesn't know his limits. He challenged someone he shouldn't have. Hearing this, many people nodded in agreement. The enemy's strength was already very abnormal. Not only did he capture the moon, but he also treated the moon as a plaything. If it was another opponent, he would have won. Unfortunately, he met the most outstanding person since the birth of this planet. In stark contrast to that, the monsters' hearts were cold. What happened to being in control? Why couldn't they defeat him even after fusing? Isn't this too bad? The monsters wailed in their hearts. If they were as strong as Otsutsuki, they wouldn't be in this situation. What's the situation on this planet? Momoshiki and Ichiki's souls roared. Although they tried to overestimate each other, the reality was often crueler than expected. They couldn't defeat him even after fusing. Just as he was about to despair, Aizen suddenly stopped fighting. Now you should understand the situation, right? Momoshiki froze for a moment, then his eyes widened in disbelief. You want to let me go? Aizen shook his finger gently. Not let you go, but let you participate in the war as a third party. After all, you still have some value. Garashi pretended to look at him. In order to fight with me, you really put in a lot of effort. Aizen laughed softly. If there's anyone in this world who can make me feel pressure, it's you. Momoshiki felt a burst of relief, then a thick sense of humiliation surged in his heart. These inferior creatures didn't even put him in their eyes, they only used him as a catalyst to stimulate their opponents. This was simply the greatest humiliation of all. However, he didn't refuse or curse. Instead, he hid the humiliation in his heart and cursed. You two wait for me, I will let you know the consequences of underestimating Otsutsuki. You really think highly of me. Garashi said with a smile, then looked at Momoshiki. Hand over control of the Pure Land. I want to integrate it into the final battlefield. One Peach's face darkened as he handed over control. He warned himself in his heart, endure. After incorporating the Pure Land into the moon, the connection between the mystic lunar realm and Earth star became even closer, as if they were two sides of the same coin. Then, 3 giant doors appeared in front of the armies of the 3 forces. Garashi said in a deep voice, in order to prevent the war from harming Earth, let's have the final battle on the moon. Aizen thought to himself, fight to your heart's content. The moment the concentration of chakra in this sealed environment reaches its limit is the moment I complete my transformation. In the case of free-range breeding, the amount of chakra released into the natural world in 10 years of peace was less than that of a single war. The scale and intensity of this war would far exceed that of the past. The amount of chakra that would be released might even exceed the amount accumulated over hundreds or even thousands of years. Furthermore, the moon was smaller than Earth, and it was a sealed space. The concentration of chakra would definitely reach a limit. While he was thinking about the transformation, the crowd below was also boiling with excitement. Is the war finally about to begin? It's all Otsutsuki's fault. I was about to ignite, but he suddenly intervened, and now I have to find the feeling again. In the crowd, Mizuki's heart was in turmoil. He was a fanatical believer that Garashi could bring light, and Garashi did better than he imagined. The current situation was something he didn't even dare to imagine in his wildest dreams. Sure enough, it is the greatest folly to speculate about the power of God with the thinking of mortals. I just have to follow orders. Hiruzen took a puff from his pipe, and his thoughts drifted back to more than 20 years ago. I knew that Garashi was extraordinary back then, and he deserved to be called me. Looking at Garashi in the sky like a god, Asuma had a strange expression. So, the most glorious moment of my life was the battle when I was 5 years old? Hearing his muttering, Shionyen, who was beside him, strongly agreed. We used to be able to fight back and forth with Sashi. Madara crossed his arms and looked at Hashirama, who was in the opposite camp, and whispered, this time, I really want to fight to the other side. Just as the 3 sides entered the final battlefield, outside the Earth, a tall figure fell out of the distorted space and time vortex. Pale skin, long horns on the head, and a golden vertical eye inlaid in the middle of the eyebrows, it was Otsutsuki's people. I came back. Looking around, Otsutsuki Ryushi was so excited that he trembled. After calming down, he looked at the planet below with half fear and half hatred. This is the planet where the Emperor of the Universe, Shimizu Garashi, rose? The ultimate demon king who forced Otsutsuki into a desperate situation. Thinking of Otsutsuki, who used to run rampant in the starry sky, Ryushi couldn't wait to skin the culprit. Although my strength should be above the current Shimizu Garashi, I must not be careless. Ryushi forced himself to calm down and said to himself in a trembling voice, after all, that guy is a monster called the Void Lord, the Emperor of the Universe. From an enslaved and grazed planet, in just a few hundred years, he destroyed Otsutsuki's foundation of more than 100,000 years. It is not an exaggeration to describe such a character as a myth or a legend. If it weren't for the help of space travel, he wouldn't even be qualified to stand in front of him. Have we entered the final stage of the battle? Ryushi frowned. Unfortunately, I don't know the details of this battle, otherwise, I wouldn't have to be so cautious. In short, find a way to sneak in first. After entering the secret space, a huge square appeared in front of everyone. In the middle of the square, a spring with a pale golden light was flowing quietly. There was a strong fragrance all around, as if it was the breath of spring. Just by being close to the spring, everyone could feel a strong vitality surging in their body. What is this? I feel 100 times more energetic, and the hidden injuries in my body are healed. Garashi walked in behind everyone. This is the spring of life extracted from the Grail vein provided by Aizen. If you are injured or physically weak in the battle, you can temporarily return to the spring to rest for a period of time. Refining chakra was very physically exhausting. In order to continuously refine chakra for all three sides, he didn't mind sacrificing the entire vein. Hearing Garashi's explanation, everyone became excited. This way, we can fight without any worries. I can also experience the pleasure of unlimited chakra. Some people also noticed the vein provided by Aizen. Then the other two sides. Garashi nodded slightly. All three sides have the spring of life. The sign of one side's defeat is when the spring is taken by the enemy. Chapter 625. Hearing Garashi's explanation, everyone was curious about this novel way of war, but it wasn't difficult to understand. With the spring water, there was an infinite chance to repeat. If the spring water was occupied, it naturally meant that the war was lost. But some people still didn't understand, why are there three roads? Garashi naturally wouldn't say that this was his bad taste, and calmly explained, the three bases are distributed in a triangle with the three holy lands as a template. Each has two roads leading to the other two sides, and the middle road is leading to the melee area. Listening to Garashi's explanation, everyone quickly understood that the middle road would most likely be the most intense area of the battle. Naruto shouted excitedly, I want to go to the middle road. Sasuke raised his eyebrows. The water in the middle road is very deep. I'm afraid you can't grasp it. Let me do it. Niji said in a deep voice, the middle road is a melee area, and we need to grasp the situation of the battlefield at all times. In this regard, my Byakugan is naturally the most suitable. Garashi smiled as he watched them fight. In addition to creating an environment for transformation, this war also had the intention of training soldiers. After all, he couldn't rely on himself to counterattack Otsutsuki. Someone had to help him clear the way. Therefore, he didn't intend to immediately counterattack Otsutsuki after this transformation, but planned to take it slowly. On the one hand, he didn't like to fight battles that he wasn't sure of. He would only take action after thoroughly figuring out Otsutsuki's details. On the other hand, he also needed some time to let his forces catch up with his pace a little. Not all of them were Otsutsuki, but at least let the current Kage-level combat power reach the level of Otsutsuki's low-level fighters. Just as Shushi's imagination was running wild, his expression changed slightly. Someone invaded this space, who is it? Perfect. After sneaking into the battlefield, Dragonshire praised himself in his heart. Those earthlings were busy with the war, and it was impossible for anyone to know of his existence, but even so, he didn't have the slightest carelessness. There weren't many Otsutsuki who were as cautious and unpretentious as him. After entering the battlefield, Dragonshire thought seriously, no one in later generations knows the history of this blank world war. All the people who participated in this war have their memories erased. We can only infer from the results that Clearwater Demon won the final victory. Thinking of this, he shook his head slightly. From the perspective of the later generations, Clearwater Demon's victory was nothing out of the ordinary. That was a top figure in the entire universe. How could there be someone who could rival him on the planet level? Judging from the historical data, it seems that there are many Otsutsuki involved in this war, but they are basically traitors and wastes. Thinking of this, Longshire shook his head with emotion. He used to wonder what was wrong with Otsutsuki's race. All of them did not think about making progress, and only knew how to plant trees. Even in his era, there were only a few elites who had awakened like him. It was only later that he realized that there must be something wrong with the system. Unfortunately, it was already too late to reverse the situation. After sighing with emotion, Longshire's thoughts returned to reality. No matter what, trash is still better than traitors. I'll go and get information from them first. In the headquarters of the Shell organization, Itao's expression was very ugly. He could naturally sense the powerful vitality contained within the spring water. Not only that, he could also sense the soul energy within the spring water. Obviously, the enemy had considered that most of his army was made up of souls, so they had, kindly, added the soul energy of the pure land into the spring water. But the more considerate the other party was, the more ashamed he was. Those two bastards not only did not put him in their eyes, they were simply coaxing a child to play a game. It was a great shame. Thinking of this, he punched the ground as if to vent his anger. Boom! Cracks appeared on the ground, spreading rapidly in all directions like a spider web. A strange expression appeared on Itao's face. Although it was just a punch to vent his anger, logically speaking, it should have caused the ground within a radius of more than 10 kilometers to collapse. However, his punch had only caused cracks to appear on the ground. After a little perception, Itao became more and more surprised. The lunar space has been strengthened. Not only that, it is also absorbing my chakra. Under normal circumstances, he could absorb chakra from nature. Chakra was almost infinite. Most of the chakra that was used could also be recycled. But now, he could not absorb any chakra from this space. In other words, if the chakra in his body was used up, he might have to use his physical and spiritual energy to refine chakra like those inferior creatures. Itao suddenly understood and gritted his teeth. No wonder those two bastards did not intend to seal me. They were waiting for me to offer up chakra. At this moment, he even had the urge to commit suicide on the spot. Even if he became a wedge state, it was better than being eaten by those two bastards. But he soon hesitated. If his strength was weaker than those two bastards, then so be it, but he was obviously the strongest one. As long as he grasped the opportunity, there was a possibility of a comeback. In this case, suicide was too cowardly. The mentality of gambling made him reconsider the possibility of winning. What should I do? At this moment, a voice transmission came into his ears. Itao's pupils suddenly contracted. Other than me and those traitors, there is still Otsutsuki on this planet? After the shock, Itao seriously thought, he asked me to meet in private to avoid my subordinates. This means that his existence is not known by others. Could it be the reinforcements sent by the main family? Until the voice in his mind urged him again, he handed over the command of the battle to the few monsters, then hid in the bushes near the base. The next moment, Longshire appeared in front of him and said directly, "Let me introduce myself. My name is Otsutsuki Longshire. Like you, I am also a superior warrior of the main family." Superior warrior? Itao's voice came out of Itao's mouth. There are only 33 superior warriors in the main family. How come I have never seen you before? Longshire did not want to tell them that he came from the future because he did not believe in the ability of the two trash recorded in the clan's records. He casually lied, "I am a secret troop directly under the clan leader. It is not surprising that you do not know. However, I believe that you should be able to sense the level of my bloodline. The nobility of bloodline cannot be disguised." Hearing this, Itao's vigilance in his heart relaxed a lot. Indeed, the nobility of bloodline cannot be disguised. Just like Kagaya's family, although they obtained great strength through the mutation of their bloodline and the strange system, the lowliness of their bloodline could not be concealed. Although they could not beat Kagaya's family, this did not prevent them from despising Kagaya's bloodline. Chapter 626. Although she already believed in the other party's identity, Itamo still asked cautiously, "Why are you here?" As Otsutsuki, who came from the difficult era of the future, casually making up nonsense was a basic operation. Dragonshire replied without changing his expression. The patriarch had a premonition that this star field may give birth to a power that could threaten Otsutsuki, so he sent me to solve the hidden danger. It turned out that the patriarch's vision had noticed this place. Itamo said respectfully. Even if Otsutsuki was a monster, their patriarch was still regarded as a god. Seeing that the two believed him without any doubt, Dragonshire once again sighed in his heart. In the future, the patriarch who was comparable to a god was defeated by the Great Demon King, and this battle established the Great Demon King's prestige. If it wasn't for the lack of time, the best way would be to go back and ask for help. Sigh, if only the time of transmigration could be earlier. Gathering his thoughts, Dragonshire said indifferently, "Tell me the current situation of this planet." Itamo didn't doubt him and explained seriously, "Although there are many traders of Otsutsuki on this planet, the real threat is the two natives, Shimizu Garashi and Aizen Sosuke." Hearing this, Dragonshire asked in disbelief, "What did you say? How could there be someone as strong as Qingshueda, as strong as Qingshui Shushi? Although the current Shimizu Demon King is not complete, there should be no one as strong as him among the natives." This time, Itamo was puzzled. "You know him? Also, although his strength is good, it shouldn't surprise you so much, right?" Dragonshire couldn't explain Shimizu Demon King's future achievements to him, so he casually said, "Because the patriarch specifically mentioned Shimizu Garashi in the prophecy, saying that he is a terrible monster." Hiss. Even the Lord Patriarch mentioned him. Dragonshire calmed down and asked, "Are you sure? Is Aizen really as strong as Shimizu Garashi?" Itamo nodded, "I'm sure." Dragonshire rubbed his chin. "Is it possible to win him over?" Hearing his muttering, Itao shook her head. "On the surface, the cooperation is still okay, but he is an earthling after all. It's impossible for him to walk together with us." Ryoshi didn't explain anything to him. Aizen didn't exist in the future. In other words, he was killed by Clearwater Demon in this war. If he revealed this future to Aizen, he might be able to convince him to join them under the fear of death. Just as Longshire was hesitating, One Peach suddenly asked, "Longshire, how is your strength?" Longshire temporarily put aside his doubts and confidently smiled, "I should be just a little bit higher than you." One Peach perked up. "Are you serious?" Longshire said indifferently, "I have presided over 2 divine tree ceremonies." With this, the Peach form no longer had any doubts. The first form had hosted the divine tree ritual once, and it was in an incomplete state. The Peach form had only eaten 2/3 of the gold form, which was not even comparable to the first form. Under such circumstances, even if the effects of the sacrificial tree of the divine tree varied, the other party's strength was definitely above their combined strength. One Peach said, "Then what's the point of thinking so much? Let's just go and crush them together." Longshire couldn't help but be surprised. "Is it really that simple?" "It's that simple." One Peach said confidently, "The 2 of them aren't as strong as me. They're only slightly stronger than me when they work together. As long as you join us, they won't be our match." Dragonshire was restless from his words. Cutting the Gordian knot with a swift knife might not be a bad choice. But he still suppressed his impulse and asked, "Do you have any trustworthy subordinates?" One Peach's tone was unhappy. "You don't trust me?" Longshire comforted, "It's not that I don't trust you, but I need to analyze the problem from the perspective of a lower life form. After all, we're too strong and tend to overlook some details." One Peach reluctantly accepted this explanation and muttered, "I have a trustworthy subordinate, the White Snake." Longshire was surprised, "Are you sure? It doesn't seem to be in a good state." One Peach waved his hand, "We can't be too polite to those lowly life forms. The more we show our might, the more they'll be tamed." Longshire didn't mind. "Since you said so, I'll listen to you." Soon, the White Snake Sage was summoned with a confused expression. After learning of Longshire's existence, the White Snake Sage was overjoyed. "That's great. With Longshire-sama joining us, how can we not succeed?" Longshire nodded slightly and told him about One Peach's idea. He asked, "Do you think this is feasible?" The White Snake Sage looked troubled and carefully glanced at One Peach. Finally, he braced himself and said, "I don't think this is a good idea." One Peach's eyes widened and he was about to speak, but he was stopped by Longshore. After saying, "Don't be hasty," Longshore looked at the White Snake Sage. "Continue." The White Snake Sage deliberated over his words. "My lords, you may not know this, but those humans are the most sinister and cunning. They like to keep their trump cards, and Shimizu Garashi and Aizen Sosuke are the best among them. No one knows how many trump cards they've hidden. One Peach Sama has never forced them into a desperate situation. In other words, what you see is only what the enemy wants you to see. In this case, it's too risky to act rashly." One Peach slowly nodded, recalling the time when he sneaked an attack on Shimizu Garashi and was almost killed. "Now that you mention it, it seems to be true. That man had the strength to fight with him back then, but what was the result?" Before his sneak attack, he had never revealed his true strength, and he had almost killed him. It was too sinister. Seeing that One Peach was so easily convinced, Longshore's eyes twitched, and he was furious. How could he have almost believed the words of this trash? Otsutsuki had used countless blood and tears to prove that the great demon king was an old B***starred. He seemed to be at the end of his rope, but in fact, he had hidden many trump cards. And this guy in front of him had never forced the other party into a desperate situation, nor had he forced the other party to use one of his trump cards. Yet, he dared to talk nonsense here. He had thought that this guy really had a lot of confidence. Seeing that the atmosphere had become gloomy, the White Snake Sage tried to express his opinion. "Actually, if we want to test the trump cards of those two people, we just need to let nature take its course." Longshore asked. "Let nature take its course?" The White Snake Sage nodded. "They are not only partners, but also competitors. As long as they go step by step, they will eventually be on opposite sides and reveal all their trump cards in the final battle. What you need to do, Lord Longshore, is to give them a fatal blow at the last moment." Chapter 627. Ryushi frowned and subconsciously wanted to refuse. As a person who came from the future, after discussing for a long time, he finally came to the conclusion that he didn't need to do anything. Wouldn't this make him seem incompetent? But after thinking about it again and again, he had to admit that letting nature take its course was indeed the best choice. Ryushi coughed twice. "Then you can go fight without worry, I will support you from behind." Snake Sage said excitedly, "With Ryushi-sama, this war will be won." Ikemomo waved her hand. "There's nothing for you to do here, you can leave." "Yes." Snake Sage respectfully retreated. He vaguely heard Ikemomo talking about the chakra fruit. Snake Sage still maintained a respectful expression, but in her heart, she despised them. The war has just begun and they are already thinking about how to divide the fruits of victory. How short-sighted. With the intelligence of these aliens, how can they win against Aizen-sama? Recalling the scene 12 years ago when Aizen-sama contacted her through Orochimaru, Snake Sage couldn't help but sigh. Aizen-sama is the one who can achieve great things. In her opinion, Aizen-sama must have planted Orochimaru as a spy in the Ninja Alliance, so he knows the internal affairs of the Alliance like the back of his hand. As for the Shell organization, as far as she knew, she was already the second batch of people to be inserted into the organization. Powerful and shrewd, such a person is naturally more qualified than Shimizu Garashi and Otsutsuki to be the master of this world. Thinking of this, Snake Sage quietly quickened her pace. "I have to quickly pass this information to Aizen-sama." While the undercurrent in the shadows was quietly surging, on the surface, the Fifth Ninja World War was in full swing. In the central area. Fire. Under Raiga's command, 1,000 pacifists fired dust release at the Alliance. Thousands of light beams bloomed with great power, leaving long and narrow gullies on the ground of the moon. Such an attack was obviously not something an ordinary ninja could resist, but they didn't want to resist it. The ninjas of the Alliance scattered as much as possible and broke through the gaps of the dust release. As long as they could get close to the mechs, the threat of the dust release would be reduced a lot. Not only that, but many of the strong ones also spontaneously rushed towards the mechas after entering the battlefield. With the spring of life healing his injuries and stamina, the excessively powerful dust release became the greatest threat on the battlefield. However, the people of Hollow would not just watch the enemy attack. The modified White Zetsu army built the strongest line of defense in front of the pacifists. Powerful ninjutsu that were hard to come by were extremely cheap in this place. From time to time, there would be roaring sounds of explosions. In an instant, both sides were shrouded in intense firepower. And such an intense exchange of firepower was just a side of the huge battlefield. Battles were taking place everywhere one could see. Amidst this hail of bullets, a man with a shamate hairstyle stood proudly. Hashirama, come and fight me. Hashirama appeared, I'm coming. Seeing Madara, Hashirama sighed. I didn't expect that you would fight for everyone. Madara snorted. Shimizu Garashi did achieve peace. In that case, it's not impossible to listen to his instructions once. Madara, you, don't talk nonsense, let's fight. Perhaps knowing that this might be the last battle, Madara broke out with all his strength as soon as he came up. He directly transformed into the complete body Susanoo and waved his odachi at Hashirama. The repulsive force of Shinra Tensei was attached to the blade, shaking the air as if even the space was trembling. Come on. Hashirama also put aside his distractions and fought with all his strength. A huge mountain-like Buddha statue rose from the ground, and thousands of arms behind it quickly shot out. Boom! The odachi and the Buddha statue's arms collided at a very fast speed. In just 1 second, they collided hundreds of times. A shockwave comparable to a Category 12 hurricane radiated into the surroundings. The wooden shards that were caught in the shockwave accelerated like bullets. Even though the ground had been strengthened, countless holes were formed by the wooden shards. Needless to say, the people who were fighting around were blown out without any preparation. Madara and Hashirama naturally did not care about the situation of others in the fierce battle. Madara opened his mouth while waving his odachi. Yasaka no Magatama. Countless light spots shot out of Susanoo's mouth and fell on the Buddha statue, breaking it into pieces. However, on the remains of the broken Buddha statue, a wooden dragon quickly grew out and tightly entangled Susanoo. Hashirama, don't think that the same trick can defeat me twice. Madara naturally knew that Hashirama's wooden dragon could absorb chakra, so he did not dare to neglect it and quickly broke out the maximum level of Shinra Tensei. The powerful repulsive force broke out from Madara's body, and instantly destroyed the huge wooden dragon that entangled him, and even Hashirama was bounced out. Around him, it was as if the entire area had been cleared. Even though they had retreated 10 kilometers away, they were still unable to avoid the explosion. Is this the strength of Big Brother? It's so strong. On the edge of the battlefield, Izuna looked at the two people fighting and was shocked. No, this is actually just part of his strength. Tobirama said in a deep voice. He naturally remembered how powerful Madara was when he used Chakra Tensei in the 4th Ninja World War 8 years ago. That's the real face of Rinnegan. For the guy who killed him, Izuna naturally didn't have a good face. But he couldn't help but be curious and asked, how strong is Big Brother's real strength? However, after Tobirama finished teasing him, he didn't care anymore and looked at the sky. Those two teenagers have surpassed Big Brother and Madara, but the other teenager can suppress their joint forces. Should I say that he's worthy of being Otsutsuki? In the sky, Naruto's whole body was shining with golden flames, Sasuke's complete Susanoo, and Tonari's Tensigen mode. The battle between the three almost changed the color of the world. Damn, this guy's strength has become much stronger than during the convention. Naruto said to Sasuke while throwing Futon Raisin Shuriken. The extra part of his power seems to be similar to the power given to us by Six Paths Sennin. Sasuke murmured. Their conversation naturally couldn't be hidden from Tonari. After a silver wool reincarnation explosion blew the two away, Tonari chuckled softly. You can enter this field because of Six Paths Sennin, right? Unfortunately, my ancestor is Six Paths Sennin's younger brother, Otsutsuki Hamura. Let's test it out and see who is the true ruler of this world. At this time, Niji entered the Hashiman Tonku mode, opened 7 gates in a row, and rushed toward Tonari. Naruto, Sasuke, I'm here to help you. Chapter 628. Seeing Niji rushing towards him, Tonari looked weird. Do you have some misunderstanding about our strength? Tonari still had some impression of this distant relative who wasn't good at using cheats. Indeed, the strength of the 3 of them was still at the same level during the World Ninja Tournament, and they were only a little weaker than him. But the problem was that he strengthened once at the tournament, and after the tournament, he strengthened again with Naruto and Sasuke. In this case, how could Niji, whose strength was still at the beginning of the tournament, be their opponent? It's really rare to see a ninja like you who doesn't rely on external forces. With such a feeling, Tonari gently kicked Niji out. You think I don't want to take a shortcut? The problem is that I don't have a shortcut. Niji complained in his heart, and immediately growled unwillingly, you actually suppressed me in terms of taijutsu. He knew that he wasn't the opponent of the other party, but he didn't expect the gap to be so big. At the ninja tournament, although he lost to Otsutsuki Momoshiki, it was because of the other party's ability to freeze time and space. In terms of taijutsu, he, who opened the 7th gate, was still above Otsutsuki. But now, he couldn't even resist a casual kick from the other party. Naruto and Sasuke didn't have time to care about the mental health of their little friend, and tacitly surrounded him from the left and right sides. Rikudo, super big jade raisin shuriken. Indra's arrow. Naruto was like Kyuubi standing up, holding the yin-yang double jade raisin shuriken with both hands and throwing it at Tonari. Sasuke, on the other hand, was like a demon god controlling thunder. He drew his bow and shot an arrow that pierced through time and space towards Tonari. Before the two fought, they each asked for their chakra from the 9-tailed beasts, and combined with the Rikudo chakra, they could use this ability. It can be said that these 2 attacks were the best embodiment of their peak strength. The space shook, and the sky was torn apart. Even Tonari felt a strong threat at this moment. Without the bloodline of the atavistic bloodline, you can perfectly match the power of Otsutsuki, worthy of being the disciple of the alliance leader. Tonari's eyes were awe-inspiring. With a wave of his right hand, a golden long sword condensed from 9 truth-seeking balls appeared in his hand, and he slashed horizontally from left to right. Golden will reincarnation explosion. An incomparably resplendent arc met the arrows and shurikens. It was as if the chaos had been reopened. Dazzling light filled every corner, and a terrifying roar exploded in everyone's hearts. The muddle-headed crowd thought that the sky had collapsed. Then, endless light and heat spread out in all directions. It was vast and boundless. Even though the 3 of them were fighting at an altitude of 1,000 meters, the shockwaves from their battle still caused the ground to crumble. The people fighting below were like grass blown by a gust of wind. They were either knocked down or uprooted. See, this is the ninja of the new era. Tobirama got up from the ground and patted his soul as if nothing had happened. He looked at the stunned Izuna and said, "Is this a fucking ninja?" Under the shock, Izuna couldn't help but swear. Shouldn't a real ninja walk in the dark, relying on intelligence and assassination? He used to think that his elder brother and Hashirama were outrageous enough, but he didn't expect this era to be even more outrageous. Uchiha Taijima pointed to the sky and laughed with one hand on his waist. Buddha, did you see that? Among those 3, there's Uchiha and Hyuga, but there's no Senju. In the end, the Sharingan is better. Senju Tobirama's face darkened, and he didn't say a word. Seeing that Naruto and Sasuke's strength surpassed his by so much, Niji finally stopped hesitating. I'm going to open the 8th gate. The Hashiman Tonku wasn't something that could be opened at will. His previous limit was the 7th gate. However, when Sensei borrowed their brain computing power to deduce the Kekkei Genkai net a few days ago, he gave them a lot of feedback. Naruto and Sasuke got the control of chakra, and he got the method to open the death gate. In the sky, the 3 of them were still fighting fiercely. Although the battle just now was intense, it didn't affect them too much. We can't keep fighting like this. Sasuke pondered for a moment and shouted. Naruto, fusion. Fusion? Naruto hesitated for a moment. How do you want to do it? Sasuke frowned slightly. Of course, you'll be my mount, and I'll cover Kyuubi with Susanoo. Naruto's face darkened. Kurama and I refuse. Don't be stubborn. At this moment, Niji's hot-blooded shout came from the sky. Let me open the situation. Niji, why are you? However, before they could say anything, they felt a gust of wind rushing past them. So fast. Sasuke and Naruto's pupils suddenly shrank. They knew that Niji was strong, but no matter how strong he couldn't surpass a cheater, unless, thinking of a possibility, Naruto and Sasuke were shocked. Niji, can you open the 8th gate? However, Niji didn't have time to answer them. He was now a burning candle, and he must grasp every inch of light. Da. Like a mirror constantly reflecting light, Niji's afterimages jumped continuously in the space, and each of his punches hit Tonari hard. Although it was impossible for ordinary people to open all 8 gates, in theory, an ordinary person who opens all 8 gates can gain strength beyond Kage in an instant. Niji's taijutsu was extremely strong, and he even cultivated the demon physique. With the buff of Hashimoto Tanku formation, he almost gained strength beyond Otsutsuki, and even Tonari wasn't his opponent. Naruto and Sasuke reacted quickly. Since Niji had made a decision, they naturally couldn't waste Niji's good intentions. Anyway, they now mastered Yin-Yang release, and it was still possible to keep Niji alive. Rasengan. Chidori stream. Because Niji's attack speed was too fast, they couldn't use moves that took too long. However, with the blessing of 6 paths mode, even a mere A-class ninjutsu could erupt with power far beyond S-class ninjutsu. Under the joint attack of the 3, Tonari's situation became precarious. Damn it, I should have taken care of him first. Tonari gritted his teeth and endured the pain, regretting it in his heart. He actually made such a low-level mistake of underestimating Niji. However, it's not over yet, Kankaku. Tonari broke the 10 blades mask on his face, and the soul power contained in the mask burst out instantly. Niji's attainments in taijutsu cultivation were very high, but the soul was his weakness. After being shocked by the sudden burst of soul power, he instinctively fell into a trance for a moment. Tonari seized the opportunity and poured all his power on him. Niji vomited blood, and the next moment, he fell to the ground like a meteorite. Chapter 629. Not good, Niji. Naruto's expression changed greatly. Niji was already like a candle in the wind. After suffering a heavy blow, his brother-in-law wouldn't die directly, right? Naruto, be careful. Sasuke shouted. After removing the biggest threat, Tonari didn't stop for a moment. Almost at the moment when he hit Niji, he pushed Urasaka away and came behind Naruto. A silver will reincarnation explosion pressed on Naruto's back. Although Sasuke reminded him, Naruto still couldn't avoid the attack and was blasted out by the silver hurricane. Tonari knew that Naruto's vitality was far above the self-mutilating distant relative, so he didn't stop. Instead, he followed up and attacked Naruto. Although Sasuke teleported to Naruto's side with Flying Thunder God, Tonari completely ignored his existence. If Sasuke hit him, he would hit Naruto. If Sasuke didn't hit him, he would hit Naruto. His attacks were sharper than Sasuke's, and his vitality was more tenacious than Naruto's. Naturally, it was more advantageous to exchange injuries. For a while, the situation took a turn for the worse. Noticing that Naruto and Sasuke were in a bad situation, everyone on the battlefield below quickly launched a rescue. Raikage and Mizukage stepped on the sand cloud created by Raza and flew into the sky. Before they got close to the sky battlefield, they were blocked by the 3-headed eagle. Not only it, but Wild Boar King, Evil God, White Snake Sage, 10 Blades of Hollow, Scientific Ninja Team of Shell, and Haku and Yugo, everyone saw the opportunity to attack. The Ninja Alliance was too powerful, and it was everyone's consensus to weaken it first. Among all the battlefields, the sky battlefield was undoubtedly the most important one. Get out of my way. AI's legs bent slightly, and he shot out like a cannonball. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, and a punch comparable to a thunderstorm slammed on the three-headed eagle's left head. Boom! The hammered bird head instantly burst into a bloody mist. But the other two bird heads were not angry, instead, they gloated and mocked. Idiot bird, it was actually injured by food. Idiot, aren't you scolding us? Then why are you scolding me? You two idiots, are you just going to watch me get beaten? In the blink of an eye, the bird's head grew back and joined in the quarrel. Seeing that he had been ignored by the three stupid birds, and that even the bird head that he had blown up did not care about him, I, who had landed on the sand cloud, had a dark expression on his face. This mixed bird dares to look down on me. At this time, Empress Shomi also flew out. Rakage, let me help you. Water escape, great waterfall technique. A large river flew out of her slightly opened red lips and hit the three dumb birds that were still chattering on their own. Huh! The three-headed eagle, who had suddenly become a drowned rat, did not even have time to react before it was hit on the back by the rakage. Thunderstorms spread all over his body through the rain, and Rakage could even smell the aroma of barbecued meat. Screech! The three heads of the three-headed eagle screamed at the same time, and their bodies fell down stiffly. What a bunch of idiots! White Snake Immortal cursed in his heart. He really couldn't bring these idiotic teammates along. Compared to immortals like them, demons and deities were far too easily confused. Rakage knew that the blow just now could not cause too much damage to the demon, at most it would paralyze it for a while. Taking advantage of this opportunity, they quickly flew up on the sand cloud. Among all the reinforcements, the first to arrive at the Sky Theater of Operations was Hagoromo Sennin. The line of defense formed by the monsters could not stop him at all. Hagoromo Sennin traveled through space and appeared in the sky, but before he could make a move, the great Tensigan hanging in the sky like a scorching sun shot a golden light at him. Ordinary demons naturally could not be his opponent, but the great Tensigan was different. It was cultivated by Himura himself, and its strength was far beyond ordinary demons. Hagoromo Sennin did not dare to be negligent and opened the truth-seeking ball, blocking the light like a sky curtain. Alas, Himura also took the wrong path. Hagoromo Sennin sighed in his heart, abandoned the great Tensigan, and went straight to attack Tonari. Defeating the great Tensigan would take some time, and what he lacked most now was time. The great Tensigan seemed to be angered by Hagoromo's action of ignoring it, and its pupils trembled, and the outermost eyes flew out. It was like bees in a hive collectively moving out, but it was a strange and disgusting version. Although Hagoromo Sennin was not scared by the big eyes flying in the sky, he was quite disgusted, and couldn't help but wave his scepter and fold the space between them. However, he obviously underestimated the power of these Byakugan, which was used by Himura as the ultimate weapon to resist Otsutsuki. The ability of the great Tensigan was naturally not limited to this. The next moment, countless bright lights shot out from the folded space, piercing through the space. The war entered a white-hot stage. On the battlefield below, in a huge crater smashed by the meteorite, Niji woke up with a severe pain, and the pain made his face hideous. Ouch! My body. It was as if his sensitivity had increased by 10,000 times. Even if a breeze blew, it made him feel like he was being cut into pieces. Even breathing made him feel as if someone was stabbing his nose with a knife. However, Niji knew that this result was already good enough. If his body wasn't tough enough, his body should have turned into ashes at the moment when the death gate ended. But even though he knew that, I'm still not reconciled. Niji sighed in his heart. He opened the 8 gates to create an opportunity for Naruto and Sasuke, but in the end, he still failed. Just as his consciousness gradually blurred, a voice suddenly came from the depths of the ground. Do you want power? If you want, I can give it all to you. Niji's consciousness sobered up a little. Who is it? Who's talking? The voice didn't answer him, but continued to repeat the sentence in his ear. Niji forced himself to focus, this is the moon, and the one sealed in the depths of the moon should be Otsutsuki Kagaya? Thinking of this, Niji broke out in a cold sweat, and his consciousness sobered up a lot. She wants to borrow my hand to break the seal? No, even if I die, I won't. Niji suddenly froze. Wait, the moon was strengthened by Sensei's 3 holy lands and the Pure Land. Even if I open the 8 gates, I can't break the moon. Niji's consciousness became clearer. In other words, if I take the money and don't do anything, I won't be seduced by her. That voice kept echoing in his ears like a recorder. Ning-ji pretended to be impatient and roared, "Then give me strength." After a moment of silence, the voice finally changed, "Don't resist." The next moment, the power from the depths of the ground poured into his body. It was boiling hot, and Niji's powder fractures quickly healed. Chapter 630. In the grass, Ryushi, who was secretly observing, looked solemn. Did Shimizu Demon King's subordinates rise during this period? Uchiha Sasuke, Undead Demon Fox Uzumaki Naruto, Hyuga Niji, 5 Kages, Sannin, 7 Sweet Commanders. Although the strength shown by these people now is far from their future achievements, it's already very terrifying. A small life planet, a remote planet in the wild era thousands of years ago, can give birth to no less than 10 Otsutsuki-level combat power. Some of them are even stronger than the high-level fighters who haven't hosted the sacred tree ceremony. It's incredible. To rise from this planet, no, to lead this planet to rise, Shimizu Demon King is really terrifying. Ryushi's eyes were full of fear. The more he knew about this world, the more he understood the horror of that man. Instead of saying that Shimizu Garashi's rise was hell mode, it's better to say that his contemporaries experienced hell mode. If the time of transmigration was a little later, maybe even I wouldn't be his opponent. Fortunately, fate is on my side after all. In the sky, Naruto was still being beaten. It's not that he didn't want to fight back, but he was now completely caught in the rhythm of Tonari's battle and couldn't get away. He tried many methods, transformation jutsu, multiple shadow clone jutsu, harem jutsu, and even reverse harem jutsu, but these tricks were useless against Tonari. This man has an unusually strong heart. Tonari crossed the sky like a meteor and punched Naruto's face. It's useless. Failure is your only fate. Damn it, even my dad's naked body is useless. Naruto gritted his teeth and cursed. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration. Is this guy a beast? Should I try beast harem jutsu? Kyubi mode? Not necessarily. Sasuke recalled the scene in Sasuke's memory where Naruto's transformation into the naked Rikudo shocked Rikudo for a whole year. Naruto, change the reverse harem jutsu simulation target to Aizen. Aizen? Naruto was stunned for a moment and found a trace of panic on Tonari's face. He was overjoyed. Yes. Why didn't I think of this trick? Don't blaspheme Aizen, Sama. Tonari's eyes widened, and he no longer slowly forced Naruto with the method of boiling the frog in warm water. Instead, he directly slashed at Naruto with Golden Will Reincarnation Explosion. You fell for it. Naruto smiled and didn't use reverse harem jutsu. Instead, he suddenly disappeared, leaving a strand of hair in place. Substitution technique. No, it's heavenly hand power. Ever since Sasuke used Flying Thunder God to teleport to Naruto's side, he had been blocking the surrounding space to prevent Naruto from being taken away by Flying Thunder God or Yomi by Ryuzaka's space ability. Golden Will Reincarnation Explosion consumes too much energy, and he can't maintain the space lock at the same time, which gives Sasuke an opportunity. After understanding this, Sherman quickly calmed down. Humph. It was just returning to the starting point. The two of you are not my match. Seeing that Naruto seemed to want to say something, Tonari warned, if you dare to threaten me with that dirty jutsu, I dare to transform into your leader. Although harem jutsu and reverse harem jutsu were developed by Naruto, the technical content wasn't high. With Tonari's dojutsu talent, Naruto naturally didn't doubt that he could learn this jutsu. But Naruto wasn't worried. Instead, he launched a psychological attack with a heartless look. Then let's hurt each other. Anyway, I even sold my father. However, before he finished speaking, Sasuke slapped him on the head. If you dare to do this, don't blame me for cleaning up the house on behalf of Sensei. Naruto held his head and muttered aggrievedly. I was just scaring him. I didn't want to play for real. Don't even think about it. Sasuke snapped. Don't talk nonsense. Come and merge with me. Here it comes. Naruto became solemn when he talked about the battle. The next moment, a huge humanoid Kyuubi appeared in the sky. Sasuke merged his chakra into it, and a large purple-black armor covered the fox's body. He looked like a fox warrior from a myth. Valiant and high-spirited. Naruto and Sasuke only felt that their chakra was resonating. The friendship from childhood to adulthood in this world, the twisted and disordered friendship in the parallel world, at this moment, their bond even exceeded the limits of the world. When the chakra's activation reached the extreme, two ancient and powerful souls awakened in them and spoke across time and space. How is this possible? Their chakras are perfectly compatible. Norihito was shocked. Such a combination was far beyond a combination in the ordinary sense. He even sensed a shuddering aura from the combined chakra of the two. It wasn't like two people, but more like a combination of four people. Yes, we are brothers. Naruto and Sasuke understood in their hearts. The long sword in the fox warrior's hand shone brightly and slashed at Tonari with an unstoppable force. No, I can't stop it. The veins on Tonari's forehead bulged as he tried his best to resist this power. But the power was too strong, as if it exceeded the limit of the world's endurance. Even the space was broken. Damn it. How did they do it? Is it a bond? Tonari roared unwillingly in his heart. At this moment, Ikemomo's voice sounded in his ear. If they merge, you can also merge. A powerful force suddenly poured into his body, and Tonari subconsciously wanted to expel it, but he still forced himself to endure it. This power is Jubi? Tonari understood in his heart. Is it Otsutsuki's Jubi? Tonari pondered, summoned the Himura stone statue, and then stuffed Jubi in. Then, he learned from Sasuke and covered every corner of the Himura stone statue with the Tensigen chakra mode. Seeing this, the corner of Ikemomo's eyes twitched wildly. This kid's reaction is so fast. In such a short time, he came up with the idea of using the stone statue as a buffer. As expected of Aizen's disciple. However, he didn't take back Jubi, but looked on coldly. I'd like to see how long you can hold back from eating this bait. It was also Jubi, but the Jubi in Ikemomo's hand didn't grow into a sacred tree, so it couldn't compare to Kagaya's. However, Jubi was Jubi. No matter how weak it was, its power level was above the half Kyuubi in Naruto's body. Moreover, after stuffing Jubi into the Himura stone statue, Himura's remaining chakra was also awakened, and it complemented Tonari's chakra. Under the superposition of three chakra, Tonari's momentum soared to the point where it was comparable to the opposite side. Shinra reincarnation explosion. Rikudo, sword of reconciliation. The ancestor's sword that shone in the starry sky and the brother's sword that pierced through time and space violently collided. The power that erupted in an instant seemed to tear the entire secret realm space apart. Chapter 631. Heaven and earth were the sea, the explosion was the wind, and everyone was a small boat in the raging sea, being hit by the monstrous waves and flying around dizzily. It seemed like a long time, but it also seemed like only a moment had passed. In the midst of this earth-shattering storm, people had lost all sense of time. Finally, the world calmed down, the storm subsided, and a ray of sunlight pierced through the dark clouds. Everyone looked up and was shocked to find a huge black hole hanging in the sky, swallowing the light. They broke the sky. Is this something that can be done with human power? As expected of the top four of the World Ninja Tournament. Tonari and the other two weren't affected by these discussions. After a strong collision, the three quickly fought again. However, some people were affected by their battle. Deep underground, Niji's eyes were wide and round. No, I'm going to burst. He originally planned to stop while he was ahead and run away after freeloading the power of the old ancestor. But who knew that the battle of those bastards in the sky seriously affected the stability of the moon's space? The stability of the moon's space was destroyed, causing the power output of Kaguya to suddenly increase by several times. When he reacted, some parts of his body had already undergone some changes. This discovery made Niji's scalp tingle. He didn't want to be sisters with TNT on. No, I have to vent this power quickly. Thinking of this, Niji no longer hesitated and rushed out of the ruins and jumped into the sky like a rocket. I'm back. The people fighting below were shocked by Niji, who suddenly jumped out of the ground. Niji? Isn't he dead? Even if he's not dead, he shouldn't be so lively now, right? I know, it must be the secret recovery technique that the leader taught Niji. Amazing, but, is it my illusion? I always feel that Niji's voice seems to have become sharper. Hearing Niji's announcement of his return, the three people in the sky had different reactions. Niji, this guy. I knew he wouldn't die. Naruto was excited. Was Niji infected by Naruto? He could have hidden and attacked. Sasuke thought in his heart. He's not dead. Shinran frowned, but soon realized that something was wrong. Wait, his chakra seems to be. Niji, let me create an opportunity this time. Naruto shouted, but Niji had no intention of communicating with him about countermeasures. He directly entered the Hashimoto Tonka mode, and then attacked Tonari without stopping. Naruto was confused. Why did he feel like Niji was being chased by something dirty? Why was he so anxious? Tonari dealt with Niji's attacks with ease. After combining Hamura and Jubi's chakra, his strength was incomparable to a few minutes ago. However, his expression did not look good. He had been strengthened, but Ning-ji and the other two had also been strengthened. His combat strength changed every few minutes, making him feel unreal. Was everyone really using cheats? This sense of déjà vu was especially strong for One Piece. The combination of the two Otsutsuki greatly increased their strength in a short period of time, but what about after coming to the battlefield? Everyone's strength skyrocketed. Aizen and Shimizu Garashi's strength skyrocketed in a few days, even their disciples' strength skyrocketed, and it wasn't enough to skyrocket once, but twice. At this moment, he had a deeper understanding of Aizen and Shimizu's approach. This war not only stimulated the two of them, but also stimulated everyone's potential. Thinking of this, One Piece took a deep breath. No, I have to force out my own potential. With the addition of Niji, the situation once again tilted to the Alliance's side. Tonari was helpless. It was really difficult for him to do it alone. Although he can rely on his space ability to move around and try his best to stay undefeated, the space ability consumes too much chakra, and his chakra is not infinite. Every time he returns to the spring to recuperate, the battle line will be pushed back by more than 10 kilometers. After 3 days, the battlefield had moved from the center of the three forces to the spring of Hollow. What's worse, the 3 days and 3 nights of high-intensity fighting had pushed the three forces to their limits. Although the spring could restore physical strength and spirit, it couldn't calm the tense heartstrings. The Alliance could still rely on their willpower, but the White Zetsu army didn't have such faith. They had already reached their limit. Damn it. Are we going to lose? Karen's small face was full of unwillingness. Although they lost, it didn't mean Hollow lost. In the end, it all depended on the battle between the three leaders. But the first to enter the battlefield would undoubtedly lose the initiative and become the prey. Thinking of Aizen's disappointment and disgust, Karen was in pain. Sasori controlled the puppets to self-destruct, but he still couldn't stop the enemy. He sighed. I've been indebted to him for so many years. This time, I'll pay him back with my life. Just as Hollow's people lost hope, Tonari suddenly flew towards Niji. It's not over yet. Niji, who had vented some of his power, returned to normal. He was carefully guarding against the old ancestor's remaining power. Seeing Tonari flying towards him, he subconsciously threw a punch. Tonari didn't defend. He gritted his teeth and took the punch, then held Niji's fist tightly. I'll give it to you. What? Niji was puzzled. Suddenly, he felt a powerful force flowing from Tonari's chest into his body. This is Jubi? Not good. Niji's face changed greatly. His body resisted, trying to expel this force. However, the part of Kagaya's chakra that had been dormant suddenly erupted. Like a bottomless black hole, it pulled the Jubi in. Niji quickly lost control of his body. The next moment, his body was kneaded and reshaped like dough. Her hair turned from black to white, and her long hair reached her waist. Her body became curvaceous, and her face was cold and noble. She was like a goddess coming out of a world of ice and snow. The Alliance's people, who were originally full of confidence, were stunned as they looked at Niji. Niji. Niji turned into a woman. Gulp. So beautiful. Is this the harem jutsu that Niji learned from Naruto? Damn it, it's too unprofessional. Yes, he didn't reveal anything that should be revealed. How can we criticize him? Compared to everyone's relaxed mood, Naruto and Sasuke looked dignified. With the memory of the parallel world, they naturally knew that this woman wasn't Niji's transformation. She was the demon who once ruled this land, Otsutsuki Kagaya. Ikemomo was also stunned. He looked at Tonari and gritted his teeth. This bastard dared to sell my Jubi? Chapter 632. Tonari was weaker than him and had no experience in planting trees, but Kagaya was different. Kagaya was stronger than him and had plenty of experience in planting trees. If he wasn't careful, he could turn from the fisherman to the one being fished. Therefore, when she saw Kagaya swallow the bait he threw to Tonari, her first reaction was anger. But he quickly calmed down, and his eyes flashed. If I can't catch a small fish, catching a big one might be a good choice. After all, Kagaya had only used a portion of his power. Even with the 10-tailed chakra and Niji's body, he was still not as strong as when he was at his peak. Remembering that he wanted to force out his potential, Itao finally made up his mind. Aizen and Shimizu will definitely deal with me first. Rather than let them target me, it's better for me to join the fray. Anyway, I have dragon form behind me, so it shouldn't be a problem. Black Zetsu was ecstatic. He never thought that he would see his mother under such circumstances. But just as he was about to put on a show of affection between mother and son, he hesitated. Based on his understanding of this world, his mother's time had long passed. She was most likely no match for those monsters. If he rushed out now, he might end up being sealed with his mother. Anyway, I can't do anything. Let's wait and see. I've finally returned to this world. Kagaya sighed, then looked coldly at the 6 paths. Yui, can you understand the loneliness of being sealed for 1,000 years? The 6 paths was silent for a moment, but soon his eyes were firm. For the future of this world, please enter the seal again. Good, as expected of my good son. Tonari said. You and the 6 paths are enemies, and the person you're occupying is an important person on their side. Cooperating with us is the best choice. But Kagaya didn't appreciate it. Are you telling me what to do? That's not what I meant. Without waiting for Tonari to finish, Kagaya's cold gaze swept across the 3 parties. Your chakra should be mine. Now, return it to its rightful owner. Kagaya flicked her long hair behind her back. Her hair shot out in all directions like thin needles, and screams sounded one after another. Bastard! How dare you sneak attack us? Kill her first. Facing the fury of all sides, Hui casually threw out a punch. 80 divine air strikes. His jade-white fist struck the air, instantly creating a shockwave as powerful as a meteor crashing down. The ninjas who were a little closer were torn apart by the shockwave, and the ninjas who were far away were also blown away. All of a sudden, the three camps were filled with wails and cries. Seeing Huey skillfully activate the mode of making the world his enemy, a great number of question marks appeared above Henren's head. Was there something wrong with the ancestor? He risked his life to bring back a powerful fighter, not a lunatic who couldn't differentiate between friend and foe. Most importantly, it was no longer the time 1,000 years ago when she could take on the entire world by herself. In fact, Hui had also sensed that something was wrong. In such a small battlefield, there were 6 or 7 Otsutsuki-level combatants. Even the strength of the cannon fodder in her eyes can't be underestimated. Even she can't ignore the combination of ninjutsu used in the formation. Were these still the weak humans in her memory? However, from the perspective of Harvest, it was also a good thing. Very good, it seems that my seedbed hasn't been abandoned in the past 1,000 years. Hui Ye's voice was cold, and she looked at Rikudo mockingly. You've helped me cultivate it well. Rikudo sighed. Using the world as a farm, mother, how far do you want to go on this wrong path? Hui seemed to be impatient listening, and the Rinnegan on her forehead flashed. Heaven's defense. She didn't transfer everyone to the origin sphere, but opened the door to the subsidiary space in the sky. Through the door, everyone saw that behind the door was connected to a world. In the next moment, a world of magma, ice, snow, gravel, and acid poured down from the sky. Seeing this situation, everyone turned pale with fright. Is she going to destroy this world? Stop her. The three camps put aside their prejudices and temporarily joined forces. Rikudo extended the truth-seeking ball infinitely, like an ultra-thin soup dumpling skin that had been flattened countless times, and then wrapped all kinds of fillings in it. Naruto and Sasuke seemed to have practiced it countless times, and they cooperated tacitly to attack Hui. Hui looked indifferent, raised her hands, and 2 bone sticks drilled out of her palms and shot at the 2. Kill gray bones. However, Naruto and Sasuke seemed to see through her attack. The moment she shot out the bone sticks, Sasuke used heavenly hand power to exchange the 2 of them with the bone sticks. The 2 instantly appeared in front of Hui, and while Hui didn't react, one pressed Rasengan to Hui's cheek, and the other kicked Hui's waist with Chidori. Boom! Hui was knocked upside down, and after standing firm, she quickly clenched her fist and attacked the 2. However, Naruto and Sasuke seemed to have known that she would do this, and they dodged the attack as if they had foreseen it, and then rushed forward to attack. After being knocked out again, Hui finally felt that something was wrong. Why did it feel like these 2 brats had fought with her before? Why were they so familiar with her fighting style? Seeing Hui so unbearable, the last bit of luck in Tonari's heart disappeared, and he simply changed his mind. Since she's unreliable, why don't I join the battle and find a chance to snatch her power? Thinking of this, Tonari hit Hui with a silver will reincarnation explosion. After losing Jubi, although his strength decreased a lot, he was still strong, and his addition instantly doubled the pressure on Hui. 1,000 years ago, it was Hamura and Hagoromo, and 1,000 years later, it's their descendants. Hui's voice was faint. What a good descendant of Aijia. Since you don't want to hand over chakra, then I'll have to take it myself. With that said, Hui materialized Jubi, and with the spring water as nutrients, the originally young, sacred tree grew rapidly. Then, the roots at the bottom of the sacred tree stretched out from the ground and caught everyone on the battlefield like tentacles. Naruto reacted quickly. Tonari, you cut off the roots, Sasuke and I will cut off the sacred tree. Tonari looked at the spring water occupied by Hui with hatred. I will. You want to cut off the sacred tree? I won't give you a chance. Hui waved her sleeve and transferred Naruto and Sasuke to 2 spaces in Heaven's defense. She didn't expect Heaven's defense to trap them for long. As long as she could buy some time, it would be enough. But the moment she launched Heaven's defense, a small dust-like figure suddenly grew larger, and then hit her heavily. Hui spat out a large mouthful of blood, looking at the enemy who attacked her, and her face became very ugly. Ichiki. No, you're a combination of Ichiki and another person? Ichiki's voice came out of Ichiki's mouth, and she was extremely happy. You betrayed and attacked me back then, and today I'm finally getting back some interest. Chapter 633. Even Kaguya felt numb when she saw Ikemomo appear. What was going on in this era? Even in the Otsutsuki clan, such a powerful force was rare. Under the repeated attacks, Kaguya's mind that was suppressed by the kami system began to recover. Damn it, I should have broken the moon first and saved the main body. However, she also knew that the strengthened moon wasn't so easy to break. Even if she could restrain herself, it was impossible to break the moon in front of so many people. Kaguya calmed down and thought seriously. This era is still too strange for me. I need to figure out how many people are still hiding in the dark. Thinking of this, Kaguya projected her perception on the god tree and used the branches of the god tree to spread out her perception. Seeing that Kaguya was silent, Ikemomo continued to provoke her. Do you still remember what I said? I curse you to suffer the pain of betrayal by someone close to you. Kaguya's expression was calm. I never remember the bark of a loser. Rikudo was surprised. Why did he feel that his mother was more normal? According to the previous situation, betrayal seemed to be a taboo for his mother. She shouldn't be so calm. Ikemomo's face was gloomy. Loser? You don't have the right to say that, do you? Kaguya said. At least I have the right to say that to you. You damn lowly bloodline, today I will. Just as Ikemomo was about to attack, Aizen walked out from behind the god tree. The spring was captured. According to the rules, I should be the next to go. Ikemomo-sama, you crossed the line. Ikemomo was instantly alert. The loser should be the first to go, but this guy was fighting with her. It meant that the opponent's target was probably Kaguya as well. There was no way around it. Kaguya was stupid and had a lot of money. This bastard wants to take my fruit. Ikemomo thought, but before she had time to speak, she saw a space vortex appear in front of her. Garashi walked out of the vortex with Naruto and Sasuke and said calmly. Otsutsuki Kaguya, shouldn't you return my disciple's body? Damn it, this guy is going to fight too. One Peach was depressed and couldn't help but say. I was the one who attacked first. Seeing that these bastards seemed to be treating her as prey, Huiyi was a little annoyed. Enough, what do you insects take me for? Can't you tell? Peach said sarcastically, you treat others as food, but in our eyes, you are also food. Food? Huiyi looked around at the three people who had just appeared, and her heart kept sinking. From what she could sense, although the three of them could not compare to her at her peak, they were definitely stronger than the current her. Although he knew that the situation was unfavorable, Kaguya coldly shouted, what about Otsutsuki? Why aren't you coming out? As soon as he finished speaking, the entire place fell silent. Everyone looked at each other. Tonari frowned and asked, there's another Otsutsuki? What do you mean? Naruto and Sasuke muttered in their hearts. Could it be the Otsutsuki Mura style? The Otsutsuki Pushiki of the parallel world was already dead, but the Pushiki of this spacetime had yet to appear. Seeing their reactions, Huiyi mocked them instead, you guys don't know? Oh, it seems that I'm not the only one being treated as prey. Rikudo was alert, Mother controls the Jubi and can perceive the details that we can't detect. Dragonshire no longer concealed himself and walked out of the void, you deserve to be the biggest traitor in the history of Otsutsuki. You were the first to discover my existence. Peach shrugged, see, I said that this strategy is useless. For Otsutsuki, there's no need to think so much, just fight. The history of Otsutsuki? Although she felt a little strange about this statement, Huiyi didn't think much about it. Instead, she asked solemnly, are you from the main clan? How come I've never seen you before? Were you born in the past 1,000 years? Dragonshire said calmly, let me introduce myself first. My name is Otsutsuki Dragonshire, and I'm here to correct the mistake. Seeing Dragonshire's appearance, everyone in the shinobi world was shocked. The shell organization actually hid Otsutsuki. Damn it, this is troublesome. What are you afraid of? With Otsutsuki's arrogant character, if he was strong, he would have already come out to suppress the world. It makes sense, maybe this guy is only at the level of Otsutsuki or Kinken. Aizen looked helplessly at the dragon's style that had exploded in front of everyone. After he learned about Dragonshire's plan from Snake Sage, he was always on guard, ready to counterattack when Dragonshire attacked his main body. But the result? Someone who shouldn't have found out about Dragonshire's existence. Although he felt a little regretful, he quickly calmed down. It's normal for plans to change, and it's impossible for everything to go as he expected. Moreover, he was also curious about Otsutsuki Dragonshire. According to the information he got from Snake Sage, Otsutsuki Dragonshire was obviously from the main clan, but even Peach and Ichibi didn't know about Dragonshire's existence. Moreover, according to the information he got from Sasuke in the parallel world, there was no such thing as Otsutsuki Dragonshire in their world. Although it could be a result of the changes in the world line, it was still a little strange. Also, Otsutsuki was too cautious, sneaking around and even planning a sneak attack, which didn't seem like Otsutsuki's behavior. Just like Ichibi, Ichibi lost to him, but when they merged, his first reaction was to suppress him and his main body. This was the quality of an excellent Otsutsuki, an iron head. In addition, Otsutsuki's eyes flashed with complex emotions when he glanced at his main body, which made him very concerned. That kind of look was definitely not the reaction of a strange Otsutsuki. Correct the mistake? Garashi asked in a deep voice, "What mistake do you want to correct?" Dragonshire tried not to look at Garashi and pretended to be calm. "Of course, I want to correct the wrong development of this world and let it return to its original track." Original track? The track that you invaders used as livestock? Rikudo asked. Ichibi sneered, "Invaders? You're the descendant of the invaders." Seeing that Ichibi wanted to say something, Dragonshire raised his right hand and looked at Rikudo. "I know you're not convinced, so I'll give you a chance to start from scratch and compete with me fairly." Chapter 634. As his voice fell, a milky white halo enveloped the entire battlefield. The people who were enveloped by the halo didn't care at first, but soon their faces changed. What's going on? Why can't I move? Did this guy freeze us all? Are you kidding me? We have millions of ninjas here, as well as powerful Jonin and Kage. How can we be restrained by one person? Garashi's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. The binding power of this halo was so strong that even he couldn't break through it. However, he didn't panic, but looked at Ryushi with interest, waiting to see the other party's performance. Sure enough, after everyone tried to move, Ryushi laughed. "Don't waste your energy. Under the light of the game, even I can't move, let alone you who are weaker than me. How about it, isn't it fair? Those who are weaker than me will be restrained like me." It turned out that he couldn't move either. Everyone was relieved at first, but soon noticed another detail. Those who are weaker than him will be restrained by the same strength. Doesn't this mean that he is the strongest in the field? Some people thought deeper. The other party is the strongest, but he chose this fair way of competition. It means that he is not strong enough to suppress everything. He needs to use this fairness to create an advantage for himself. Sasuke looked strange. Why is the other party's ability similar to his forced kidney deficiency dojutsu? In the midst of the discussion, Ryushi continued. "Don't worry, there is a fairer way. My Rinnegan exclusive dojutsu will let you experience the beauty of starting from scratch." Starting from scratch? What do you mean? Tonari was puzzled. It means literally that all your abilities will be emptied and reset to the moment you were born. Ryushi laughed. Hearing him say this, everyone couldn't believe it. Releveling? We seem to have an advantage in cultivation. These Otsutsuki have lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and we have only lived for a few decades. Isn't it a loss for them to return to the same starting line? However, Rikudo said in a deep voice. Otsutsuki who awakened their bloodline, as long as they grow up normally, they will have the strength to cross the stars. Everyone was shocked and hurriedly asked. Aren't we the same template? In other words, the results of our hard work in cultivation may not be comparable to the results of their daily eating and sleeping? This is too unfair. Longshore shrugged. Absolute fairness is absolute unfairness. Naruto and Sasuke's heart sank. Their current strength was the result of cultivation, bloodline, and adventures. Without the gift of Hagoromo, it would have been difficult for them to reach this height at this age. Although they had started cultivating from scratch and should be able to reach this level of strength in 30 years, they did not think that the other party would give them that much time. Based on their understanding of Otsutsuki, before Otsutsuki reached adulthood, his strength changed almost every day, but after he reached adulthood, he basically had to rely on cultivation or external forces. Therefore, the duration of the game set by the other party was most likely within 20 years. In these 20 years, there was no way that his cultivation speed could keep up with the speed of his bloodline's transformation. Tongren asked in a heavy voice. This eye technique of yours should be specially used to restrain teacher and that alliance leader, right? But I don't understand. When you use this eye technique, you also offset the gap caused by presiding over the sacred tree ceremony. When both sides have Otsutsuki, why do you think you can win? For Otsutsuki, who could make his strength skyrocket by planting trees casually, the price-performance ratio of cultivation was too low. For Otsutsuki of the same bloodline, there was almost no difference between thousands of years old and dozens of years old. The only difference was that they had not planted trees before. And if they started from scratch, there was no sacred tree for them to plant. Originally, his strength was weaker than Ichiki, Mamashiki, and Ryushi, but without the influence of chakra fruit, there would be almost no difference in the strength of the four of them when they reached adulthood. Even under the influence of the problem maker ability, he believed that his strength when he reached adulthood should be stronger than the three who only knew how to plant trees. Longshore did not avoid this question, but kindly explained, it's very simple. I have a special catalytic method. I only need half of your time to reach adulthood. So, I will start the killing mode 10 years after the peaceful mode. Tongren took a deep breath and couldn't help but mock, you are really fair. Longshore spread out his hands, then you can only blame yourself for not working hard enough. Who told your cultivation speed to be slow? Tongren's mouth twitched crazily. A person who openly cheated actually said that he didn't work hard enough? Mamashiki was also somewhat dissatisfied. Why do you have to go through so much trouble? With our strength, it's enough to suppress them. Longshore cursed in his heart, why do you ask? Isn't it because they don't trust your ability? If they fought normally, both sides needed to not drop the ball. If they followed his plan, it would be fine as long as he didn't pull his own leg. Did he believe in himself or the trash recorded in the history of the clan? Was there even a need to say? Of course, he couldn't say this out loud. Longshore said with a smile, in 10 years, even Shimizu Garashi can't grow to the same level as us. In other words, our main enemies have changed from Shimizu Garashi and Aizen Sosuke to Otsutsuki Tongren, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, and Otsutsuki Kagaya. Who do you think is easier to deal with? Mamashiki suddenly understood, that's right, it is indeed easier for us Otsutsuki. With that, Mamashiki paused. He subconsciously felt that Otsutsuki was easier to deal with. Sure enough, the two earthlings left a deep impression on him. So much so that he would rather face the Otsutsuki clansmen than face the two monsters. Longshore snapped his fingers, now, let the game begin. The milky white halo flashed, and the next moment, everyone felt that their whole body was emptied of energy. The method of refining chakra and the hand seals to release ninjutsu were all forgotten. Although they already knew that this would be the result, the feeling of losing power still made everyone panic. Damn, I can't even use transformation jutsu. Bloodline is inherited through awakening, but our cultivation is inherited through words and teaching. Now that everyone has forgotten the knowledge, how can we practice ninjutsu? Do we have to redevelop ninjutsu? Reshape the ninja cultivation system in 10 years? It's impossible to do. Damn, no wonder those bastards didn't put us in their eyes. Sure enough, only Otsutsuki can participate in the final battle. Amidst these panicked voices, Shushi had a strange expression on his face. At first, he was worried that Aizen would disappear because of this, but what he didn't expect was that although Aizen's identity was reset, his strength when he was born wasn't weak at all. Just like Otsutsuki, he was born holy. Chapter 635. Feeling the power in his body, Aizen thought to himself, my current strength is still above that of Ryushi. If there were no restrictions in peace mode, would have ended the battle early. Yes, you can't attack in peace mode, and this has been tested by some people. They surrounded Ryushi angrily, wanting to kill him while he was powerless, but they were restrained by an invisible force. Longshore ridiculed with an infuriating expression, ho ho, a group of incompetent idiots have surrounded me, it's really scary. You, enjoy the last 10 years of your life, trash. Hearing this, everyone was furious. Someone shouted, even if we can't hurt him, we have to harass him every day. We have to disturb him so much that he can't sleep, so that he can't awaken smoothly. Harass? Ryushi frowned slightly, but he quickly recovered and said with a smile, no matter how much you struggle, you will only slow down my transformation, you won't hurt me at all, Hatue. Under normal circumstances, Ryushi wouldn't be hit by a mere spit, but he just lost his power, and his perception was at its lowest point. Moreover, he didn't expect that the arrogant people of the future would do such a disgusting thing. Ryushi's face was gloomy, which bastard spit on me? Everyone was excited, so spitting doesn't count as an attack? Watch my water release, big spit technique. Soon, everyone's anger developed in a strange direction. The original water release ninjas were doing their best. Although they lost their chakra, their talent in spitting was still stronger than others. For a while, spit covered the sky and the earth as they attacked Ryushi. Ryushi's face was gloomy, he used this ability to deal with the star clans, but he has never encountered such a low-quality crowd. Spit. Boring trick. Ryushi covered his mouth and said coldly, there is no fresh water or food on the moon, you are just accelerating your own destruction. As soon as he said this, the attack of spit stopped. Everyone was panicked, they had indeed neglected this important detail. Although they had brought half a month's worth of food, they were going to stay here for 10 years. Moreover, no one would carry vegetable seeds with them during a war. Even if they wanted to farm, they couldn't do it. Just when everyone was worried that they would starve to death, a deep and steady voice sounded, would release, orchard technique. In the next second, all sorts of fruit trees sprouted from the ground, bearing fruit at a wild speed. It was big and round, and the fragrance of fruit filled the air. Everyone's eyes widened. Wasn't chakra taken away? How could the leader use woodwalk? Right, I remember now. Asuma clapped his hands. Garashi comprehended the method of refining chakra on his own back then, and he learned it on the first day of school. Unlike when he was young, he naturally understood the meaning of this performance. Hearing Asuma's voice, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Sure enough, monsters would always be monsters from a young age. For an ordinary person, learning how to refine chakra in 3 to 5 days was already considered a genius. However, Garashi had managed to figure out how to refine chakra on his own within a day. He's too strong, as expected of the leader. I suddenly feel that Asuma-sama is so pitiful. He has to live under the shadow of the leader since he was young. But there were still people who were puzzled, what about woodwalk? Can woodwalk be developed directly? Asuma rubbed his chin, if it's Garashi, it's reasonable to develop it directly, right? Ryushi's expression was very interesting. Why did he feel that the speed of Otsutsuki's bloodline awakening was not necessarily comparable to the speed of the other party's cultivation? It was too outrageous. As expected of Clearwater Demon. Fortunately, my growth speed is twice as fast as the normal Otsutsuki. Ryushi comforted himself, but he still felt insecure. No, I can't just wait for my bloodline to awaken. I have to cultivate too. Isn't it just cultivation? Who doesn't know how to do it? In the future, he was a famous problem maker in the Otsutsuki clan. Ichiki and Momoshiki had complicated expressions. Could it be that they, with their noble bloodlines, also had to learn and cultivate? For them, who were at the top of the food chain, hard work was simply a disgrace. After solving their worries, everyone became active again. Saliva attack, ready. Don't throw away everyone's excrement, gather them and throw them at him. They had a very clear understanding of their position. With their strength as Chunin and Genin, even if they recovered their strength, it was impossible to have any impact on the enemy. It was better to harass the enemy as much as possible. Ryushi's face was distorted when he heard this. What's wrong with these earthlings? They were not satisfied with the level of disgust of saliva. Thinking of this, Ryushi could no longer bear it and pushed away the crowd to escape. Seeing Ryushi running away in fear, Ichiki and Momoshiki were a little dumbfounded. Is this Otsutsuki from the main family a fool? Is this the big move that he spent so much effort to prepare? Running away like this, it's impossible to calm down and awaken. At this time, some people cast evil eyes at them, and Ichiki and Momoshiki ran away in fear. Such a cruel method of shitting on the head was really too heavy for them. Garashi's expression was strange. Otsutsuki, who could make the starry sky tremble, was chased by a group of Chunin and Genin. This development even he did not expect. However, he didn't stop them. Ryushi was the only one who was beyond his control, so he was very vigilant against him. Although the other party acted a little stupid, he didn't underestimate the enemy. Any method to weaken the enemy is allowed. After a little pondering, Garashi looked at Aizen. You should have recovered some of your strength, right? What? Do you want me to provide meat? Aizen smiled and snapped his fingers, and a table full of barbecue appeared in front of everyone. Seeing their leader use chakra, everyone in Hollow cheered, but they also felt some regret. It's a pity that the three Otsutsuki couldn't see this scene. Garashi smiled. This is only one thing. I want to say that with my current ability, I can't build the dream world alone. Aizen asked, do you want to cooperate with me? Garashi nodded solemnly. If we want to reconstruct the ninja system in 10 years, we can't do it with our individual ability, we can only rely on the wisdom of the collective. Aizen pretended to ponder for a moment, then slowly nodded under the expectant eyes of both sides, yes. However, my suggestion is to integrate the native system, and take this opportunity to turn chakra into a power that truly belongs to us. Chapter 636. Hearing Aizen's proposal, everyone's heart was excited. Since knowing Otsutsuki's existence, many people have resisted chakra. Because chakra doesn't belong to them, as long as Otsutsuki wants to, he can take chakra away from them. Therefore, they were very tempted by Aizen's proposal. However, those who have been in contact with the other three systems shook their heads secretly. The reason why chakra can destroy the native system, besides Otsutsuki's influence, is that chakra is safe and easy to practice. Compared to the natural petrification of the sage technique, the contamination of the demon's body, and the erosion of the god's mind, chakra has almost no risk. As for the threshold, although there is a requirement to practice chakra, compared to the other three systems, the threshold is almost negligible. Seeing everyone's different expression, Aizen smiled and said, the risk of practicing the other three systems is indeed high, but isn't the dream world giving you a chance to try? Moreover, what we want to develop is a system that combines the advantages of the other four systems, a system that is truly suitable for us. Of course, we will consider the risk in the development process. Everyone was a little moved, but they didn't say anything. They looked at Garashi and waited for the leader to make a decision. For Soseki, the answer to this question was obvious. If a civilization's lifeline is in the hands of the enemy, there is no way to counterattack Otsutsuki. After a moment of silence, Garashi said loudly, everyone, for the future of our world, please use your wisdom and imagination. Everyone responded enthusiastically. Yes. Just like that, 10 years passed in a flash. In the sky, Ryushi's face was gloomy. In order to avoid those bastards' filth, after recovering some chakra, he quickly flew to the sky. Although floating in the sky doesn't affect his awakening, this kind of humiliation is something he will never experience in the future. Damn, I have to use this ability in the future to prevent such low-quality bastards. In the distance, Ichiki and Momoshiki also landed. Let's go, it's time to wash away the shame. It didn't take long for the three to arrive near the Ninja Alliance's base. The originally desolate land of the moon had become a farm and fruit garden. Vegetables and fruits were everywhere. As they approached the base, they could even smell the aroma of barbecued meat coming from the base. The veins on the three men's foreheads bulged. They were chased up into the sky and didn't dare to land for 10 years. But these bastards actually ate and drank well, treating the war as a vacation. Thinking of their tragic experiences in the past 10 years, Tao Shi immediately used Shinra Tensei to spread out in all directions. The surrounding farms and orchards were instantly destroyed. The greenery that had finally appeared on the surface of the moon was once again covered by sand and dust. Six Dao and Tongren flew out with gloomy faces. After seeing the miserable situation around them, they were even more furious. Do you pests only know how to destroy? Oh. Is this enough to make you angry? There are more interesting things that haven't started yet. Tao Shi grinned as he looked at the crowd behind them. He stretched out his right hand and pushed the crowd with a repulsive force. In all fairness, the strength he is showing now is far less than the strength he showed during the ninja tournament. However, the problem was that the recovery speed of the allied forces was much slower. The Six Paths hurriedly used his repulsive force to cancel out the Shinra Tensei, and a terrifying power exploded in the center of their collision. On the other side, Ichiki and Tongren were also fighting. Without the influence of the sacred tree sacrifice, the strength of the two was almost the same. To be precise, Ichiki's strength was even weaker. After all, one side was growing and cultivating happily, while the other side was suppressing his awakening with resentment. Of course, this gap wasn't enough to determine the winner in a short time. Therefore, Longshore didn't care about them and strode towards the center of the base. Although his growth speed was twice as fast as Ichiki's, his strength was far more than that. Otsutsuki's growth curve was in the shape of a T. The closer he was to adulthood, the stronger he would be. In the distance, Kaguya looked hesitant. No matter which side won, it wouldn't be good for her. The best result would be for both sides to die together. However, the possibility of that happening was very small. Thinking of this, Kaguya thought, I'll help whoever loses. Longshore was running rampant in the base. Seeing that Clearwater demon was avoiding him, his confidence swelled. Clearwater, Aizen, are you still hiding? Suddenly, a sword flashed, and a pale golden crescent flew out of the base. Here it comes. Longshore grasped his temperament and raised his right hand, breaking the crescent with a light grab. The scattered energy waves washed over the area. Sure enough, he was stronger than Ichiki and Peach. Although he had already guessed this, Longshore's heart still twitched when his guess was confirmed. His cultivation speed was faster than his bloodline awakening speed. This made his view of the world shatter. Fortunately, it's still not as good as me. Longshore relaxed and quietly dispersed the multiple layers of protection on his right hand. His expression became more unrestrained. What? Only this kind of. Suddenly, he felt a strong sense of danger and subconsciously dodged to the side. The next moment, a large energy ball bombarded the place where he had been standing. It rumbled like thunder. Looking at the giant crater in the ground and the sudden appearance of Clearwater Demon, Dragonshire understood what was going on. He looked at Aizen in shock. Did you use an illusion to blur my perception? Aizen shrugged. I thought you were strong after being dormant for 10 years. Humph. It's just an illusion. Longshore snorted. Although he was still afraid, he felt relieved. The fact that the enemy used a sneak attack meant that they were weaker than him. As he spoke, Shushi suddenly teleported behind Long Shi and kicked him in the back. Long Shi's reaction was also very fast. He turned around in a flash and threw a punch at Shushi. Boom! Space trembled and thunder rumbled. Black cracks appeared in the area where their fists and feet collided. The two of them were in a stalemate for only a moment before Shushi was sent flying by his opponent's tremendous strength. But just as Long Shi was about to follow up with another attack, Aizen appeared beside him and used the truth-seeking jade to stab at his waist. "I've been waiting for you." Long Shi laughed and tore off Aizen's right arm. However, Aizen didn't care. With a flash of light, the illusory arm instantly solidified. Illusory transformation? What a troublesome ability. Long Shi frowned and felt a wave of light coming from behind him. He subconsciously slapped it away. "Don't bother me." However, the wave of light exploded the moment it touched him. A terrifying energy storm blasted him away. Long Shi stabilized himself and looked confused. Why did I use my hand to block his attack? While he was still confused, the wound on his right hand began to petrify and mutate. Seeing this, Long Shi was so scared that he tore off his right arm. Cold sweat dripped from his forehead. Wait, isn't this Clearwater Demon's super god chakra from the future? He didn't know it 10 years ago. Why is he using it now? Long Shi panicked. Was I the one who helped him grow? The more Long Shi thought about it, the more frightened he became. Was I destined to return to the past? Chapter 637. Impossible, it's just a coincidence. Long Shi's face was ferocious as he tried to wipe away the shadow in his heart. But once this thought was born, it was like bamboo shoots after a rain, growing wildly in his heart. Otsutsuki had the ability to travel through time, but he was the only one who successfully traveled back to this time. Was he really that special? No, it's not like that. Long Shi crazily hypnotized himself. It must be because of the patriarch. It was the patriarch who sent me back to this era. What's wrong with this guy? Garashi was keenly aware of the other party's strangeness. Although he didn't understand why the other party was like this, he naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. Taking advantage of Long Shi's distraction, he and Aizen rushed forward and rained punches on Long Shi's body. Their attacks were so fast that it was difficult to see their afterimages. To outsiders, the scene in front of them looked like Long Shi was having a seizure. His body was trembling and twitching non-stop. "Get out of my way." Long Shi endured the pain and released the chakra from his body. Garashi and Aizen were pushed back by the powerful momentum, giving Long Shi a chance to breathe. Then, he spat himself out of the open mouth as fast as he could and finished shedding his skin. He knew that the other party's chakra was difficult to deal with. He could barely accept petrification and mutation, but the key was the mental attack, which was fatal in battle. Therefore, he didn't dare to let the chakra stay in his body for too long and directly shed his skin. Damn, these two bastards. Long Shi cursed in his heart, but at the same time, he was full of fear. Before the rise of Clearwater Demon, it was easy for them to suppress the planets under their rule. Chakra was just their food. The riots caused by the people who used chakra as a weapon were like ordinary people fighting with breadsticks, weak and powerless. But what about these people? They contaminated chakra. Not only did they not have the advantage in the battle, but they also had their hands tied. Long Shi took a deep breath and said in a deep voice as if to encourage himself, "Don't think that you can defeat me with chakra." Super God Chakra? Garashi's heart skipped a beat. He had never been talented in naming things. He had indeed planned to name this new system Super God Chakra, but he had not announced it. How did the other party know about it? Garashi had some guesses in his mind and said calmly, "This name sounds good. Let's call it Super God Chakra." Long Shi panicked for no reason. This name was actually named by me? Could it be that my arrival is a part of the future? Seeing that Long Shi still dared to be distracted after being distracted, Garashi almost had an answer in his heart. Did this guy come back from the future? With the precedent of kidney deficiency and filial son Bo, this conjecture was not absurd to him. Garashi nodded slightly. That explains his complicated emotions when he saw me for the first time. It seems that the future me should have left a rather deep impression on him. While Longshore was distracted, Garashi did not forget to take the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Countless golden rays shot from his fingertips and almost turned Longshore into a sieve. Aizen's sword suddenly lengthened and held a 40-meter-long sword to cut Longshore in half. The continuous pain made Longshore recover from his panic and reattached his lower body as if he was pulling up his pants. Longshore pressed his hands on his waist and was extremely angry. "You two damn bastards." He, who claimed to be Otsutsuki's savior, fell in the same place twice. Longshore took a deep breath and his eyes were solemn. "I have figured it out. Not to mention that it's not the future, even if it's fate, I will change it." At this moment, Garashi suddenly said, "Speaking of which, I really have to thank you. If you hadn't deprived us of our power, I wouldn't have bet 10 years on an uncertain future." Kacha. Longshore's heart was in chaos again. Garashi and Aizen launched another fierce attack. This is the game he prepared so carefully. Sure enough, Otsutsuki is a group of idiots with high combat ability. Longshore had the upper hand at the beginning of the battle and was at a disadvantage for the rest of the battle. Kagaya, who was watching from a distance, was speechless. At this moment, she suddenly felt that her fear of her clan was too rigid. If she had known that the elites of Otsutsuki were like this, she would have seriously managed this planet. Kagaya sighed in her heart. She was just a low-level soldier of Otsutsuki. She didn't have access to the upper echelons of the family. She only knew about them through propaganda. He can't lose now, at least not so thoroughly. Kagaya muttered to herself and flew forward. On the other side, Longshore was beaten black and blue. He shouted in shame and anger. "Damn it, if it wasn't for your chakra affecting my judgment, how could I be like this?" Garashi was silent for a moment and looked at him as if he was an idiot. "Actually, I have turned off the function of the IQ reduction halo." Longshore's pupils shook. "What did you say? How is that possible?" Garashi sighed. "Because it doesn't matter to you whether it reduces your intelligence or not." Longshore almost doubted his life. "Am I an idiot? What savior of Otsutsuki? Is he just the tallest among the shortest?" As he spoke, Garashi and Aizen covered him with another round of fire. Kagaya flew between the two sides and blocked Garashi's attack. She warned loudly, "Don't be fooled by them. The effect of chakra has never stopped." Longshore suddenly woke up. "Yes, how can I believe the enemy's words? It must be the effect of the IQ reduction." Thinking of this, Longshore finally regained his sense of self. "I understand. I won't be affected by your words anymore." However, Garashi said faintly, "Don't you think it's too late to understand now?" Aizen used words to provoke him. "You are no longer our opponent." Longshore was shocked. Only then did he realize that his strength had declined to the point where he was on par with the enemy after his repeated golden cicada shell shedding and sneak attack. Although Kagaya joined them, her strength had only returned to Otsutsuki's normal level. She couldn't compare to either of them. Not to mention, their cooperation was far inferior to the enemy's. Kagaya also realized that her actions were a little too late. She quickly reminded him. "If you have any other abilities, use them quickly. Otherwise, we can only temporarily retreat." Retreat? Longshore rejected the idea without even thinking about it. With their cultivation speed, if we retreat this time, we won't have another chance. So, for the sake of Otsutsuki, I have to ask you to sacrifice yourself. Chapter 638. Kagaya, who was carefully guarding against the enemy, was shocked. "What do you mean?" Without waiting for her to respond, Ryushi slapped her back. Kagaya spat out a large mouthful of blood, and her aura weakened at a speed visible to the naked eye. Are you crazy? You are forcing me to betray you. Kaguya was shocked and angry, completely unable to understand Ryushi's thoughts. Her strength was weaker than Ryushi, but not to the point where she couldn't resist. Wouldn't it be suicide to do so when there was a strong enemy outside? Did Ryushi expect her to give up struggling for the sake of Otsutsuki's future? However, Ryushi's eyes were indifferent. You don't understand anything. Betray Otsutsuki? Such a thing doesn't exist. As soon as his voice fell, a strange power suddenly erupted from Kaguya's body. Under the influence of this power, Kaguya's body began to shrink, and then she was sucked into Ryushi's mouth. Garashi naturally wouldn't sit back and watch her increase her strength, but when he and Aizen teleported to Ryushi's side, they saw Ryushi accelerating the absorption of Kaguya, and a powerful force erupted from his body and blasted them away. Garashi landed on the ground with a dignified expression. He could naturally see that Kaguya was being controlled by a force. That power even came from within her body. Otherwise, she wouldn't be swallowed so easily. Is this a method developed by the Otsutsuki clan in the future to suppress traitors? Or was it long ago, but they kept it a secret? Garashi frowned. This was not recorded in the memories of the parallel world. However, he could understand. Although the Otsutsuki clan was a noble high-ranking warrior, Ryushi's ability was too terrifying. It was something that no Otsutsuki could accept, and it was destined that only a few people could know about it. But there is one thing that is strange. If Ryushi can control Otsutsuki without restrictions, then why doesn't he control Tonari and Rikudo? Or is there some difference between Kaguya and Tonari and Rikudo? Garashi's eyebrows drooped, and he thought to himself, is it because of planting trees? If that's the case, then one of the remaining Otsutsuki can also become his puppet, Otsutsuki Ichiki. The four people who were in the middle of a fierce battle also noticed the movement here, and their faces all changed. Although they didn't notice the changes in Hui Ye's body up close like Garashi did, they still felt a trace of strangeness. Even if it was a sneak attack, Hui shouldn't have been devoured so quickly, right? However, Ishir did not express his confusion. Instead, he deliberately provoked the other party. Although there was an accident at the beginning, now we are finally back on track. After swallowing Hui Yi, Longshi's strength is definitely not comparable to those two humans. Are you ready to witness their defeat? Chinren's eyes were firm. He said concisely, teacher will definitely win. Compared to the confrontation between the two of them, Peach's style was a simple matter of having a foul mouth. F***CKU. The Six Dao's mouth twitched, and he corrected, only a part of her consciousness. Mother's real body is still sealed. After absorbing Bright Night, Dragon Form's originally weak aura instantly soared. Ah! Dragon Form roared loudly, as if he wanted to vent the surging power in his body and the pent-up aura in his chest. Dragon Form looked up, and his gaze shot towards the two like a sharp sword. Sorry for making you wait so long. Aizen narrowed his eyes. I thought you would say something about trampling us under your feet. Dragon Form's expression was calm. Any emotional fluctuation can become your weapon. Before I kill you, I will not be angry again. As expected, it's not easy to fool you. Garashi sighed and shot a beam of light towards Dragon Form. However, the beam of light changed direction as it approached Dragon Form, as if it was bounced off by an invisible barrier. So this is it? Dragon Form waved his sleeves and said indifferently, as expected, I should have used absolute power to kill you from the beginning. Although I understood this a little late, it's not too late. First, let's start with you. Dragon Form looked at Aizen, and the powerful chakra suppressed the surrounding space and time. Then, Dragon Form stepped forward, teleported in front of Aizen, and tore him in half. The void fluctuated, and Aizen's body instantly solidified. Before he could react, Dragon Form caught up and killed him again. No matter how many times you revive, I will kill you. Dragon Form's voice was calm as if he was stating a fact. What a rare situation. Garashi muttered to himself. He suppressed the thought of merging with Aizen and attacked Dragon Form. Although he had easily defeated Aizen twice, Dragon Form did not dare to underestimate the infamous Clearwater demon of the future. He punched Garashi with all his strength. Garashi's body exploded into a bloody mist. But in the next moment, the scene of him exploding was rewound like a movie. Time reversal? Dragon Form was not surprised. Even Aizen had such a life-saving method, so it was reasonable that Shimizu Garashi could reverse time to revive. As long as I pay attention, don't let him reverse my state to before I devoured Kagaya. The next scene was Dragon Form chasing after the two like a game of whack-a-mole. Whenever he saw someone revive, he would quickly punch them. Seeing this, the Ninja Alliance and Hollow became anxious. Regardless of the huge gap in strength between the two sides, they rushed forward with red eyes. Even if we die, we must consume his strength. Buy time for the two leaders. However, the gap in strength between them and Dragon Form was too big. Even the 5 Kages, Naruto, and Sasuke couldn't do anything to him. Seeing those despicable earthlings dying under his attack, Longshire's mood was incomparably happy. Even Clearwater Demon was killed by him more than a dozen times. He felt that he had reached the peak of his life. In this case, even if he tried to suppress the joy in his heart, he couldn't help but laugh. Haha. Do you think you can stop the torrent of fate? While laughing loudly, Dragon Form was a little regretful. It's a pity that I can't let those people in the future see the scene of me beating Clearwater Demon. If history is revised, people in the future will only know that he defeated a native of a primitive planet, but they won't know that he saved Otsutsuki. The feeling of walking in the dark is really unbearable. Ryushi's heart itches unbearably, so he can only complain to these ninjas in front of him who are destined to be dead. Fate is really wonderful. Who would have thought that the universe emperor who dominated the starry sky in the future time and space would be defeated by me, a nobody? Chapter 639. Hearing Ryushi's happy confession, even Garashi's expression became strange. Is the title of the Emperor of the Universe for him? However, recalling his previous nicknames like Hexagonal Warrior, he suddenly didn't feel strange. Naruto coughed up blood and asked, "The Emperor of the Universe? What the hell are you talking about?" Ryushi laughed loudly. "It's okay to tell you now. I did come from the Otsutsuki clan, but not from this time and space, but from the future." Hearing Ryushi's words, everyone was shocked. From the future? However, it wasn't the first time they met someone from the future, and the surprise quickly calmed down. On the contrary, Ichiki and Momoshiki felt that Ryushi had a strong purpose. Hearing that he came from the future, the confusion in their hearts was suddenly solved. So it turned out to be to change the future? However, how bad would the future situation be for our family to make such a desperate decision? Ryushi continued, "As for the Emperor of the Universe, it's the man behind you, Shimizu Garashi. He almost disintegrated our rule with his own strength. In just a few hundred years, he made this primitive planet replace Otsutsuki's position in the starry sky. No, it's even far more than that. He formed the Star Alliance in this star field, united the scattered small and medium-sized forces, defeated our clan, and became one of the most powerful forces in the starry sky. Because of this, he was crowned the title of the Emperor of the Universe." Everyone couldn't believe it. If it wasn't from the enemy's mouth, even they themselves would find it hard to believe that such a future would happen to them, because it was too absurd. But thinking about it seriously, such a development seems to be very reasonable. The leader has always been the best one, whether it's Woodleaf, the ninja world, or the starry sky. Moreover, forming an alliance sounds very much like what a leader would do. Although he also thought that Shimizu Garashi would be a great threat to Otsutsuki, it was impossible for him to imagine that the Otsutsuki clan, which had dominated the starry sky for more than 100,000 years, would be destroyed in just a few hundred years. Rikudo was relieved. "I have made many small mistakes in my life, but I have made the right choice. I sealed my mother, founded ninja, and chose Garashi." Then, his gaze became firm and resolute. "For the sake of this world's future, even if I have to risk the complete annihilation of my soul, I will protect Shusher." In this impetuous atmosphere, Ryushi laughed loudly. Unfortunately, your glorious future will soon be ruined, you have no future. Seeing Ryushi's arrogance, Momoshiki frowned slightly. Why did it feel that Ryushi's intelligence was reduced again? Didn't he said that he wouldn't have emotional fluctuations? However, they weren't worried. In the current situation, Ryushi can't lose. At this time, Aizen, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly asked, "It seems that the future doesn't have my name?" Ryushi shrugged, "You are indeed a very powerful person. If you can live to the future, you may become a great person on par with Shimizu Garashi. Unfortunately, the future doesn't have your track. In my opinion, you most likely lost to Shimizu Garashi in the original battle." "Only on par?" Aizen shook his head slightly and smiled, "Sure enough, the only one who can defeat me is myself." Ryushi was puzzled, "Yourself?" Aizen ignored him and turned to Garashi, "About my identity, you should have some idea, right? After all, I've personally led you to my hometown to take a look." Garashi said in a deep voice, "How should I address you? Sosuke Aizen? Or Shimizu Garashi from a parallel world?" In the crowd, Obito's eyes widened, and his heart went crazy. "I guessed right? So Aizen is really a senpai from a parallel world." Ryushi was confused, a parallel world? There's something even he didn't know. A name is just a code name. "You can call me whatever you want," Aizen said indifferently. Hearing Aizen's admission, everyone was in an uproar. They didn't even care about the current critical situation. The two strongest forces in the shinobi world are actually the same person. This is too shocking. "Idiot. I said he's the leader of a parallel world." Momoshiki was even more surprised. "Like I said, how could those inferior creatures give birth to two monsters that surpass Otsutsuki in the same era? That makes sense." Aizen continued, "We are two sides of the same world. I tend to be extreme, but you are too gentle. If one person is willing to sacrifice himself, the one who receives his power will break through the limit and reach the true limit." Garashi took a deep breath. "I understand, you will receive my power. However," Aizen laughed, "since there is a perfect future to choose from, why should I gamble with an uncertain fate? Come, take my will to the top of the starry sky." After saying that, Aizen turned into a light and flew towards Garashi. Seeing this situation, everyone's hearts were greatly shaken. Ai muttered to himself, he didn't hesitate to give up his life. What great courage. Minato sighed, as expected of the parallel world's Garashi, this kind of tolerance is really shocking. Yes. It's really shocking. Ryushi clapped his hands, but suddenly his face changed dramatically. What the fuck? Damn it, I must have been affected by that evil will again. No, I can't let them succeed. Thinking of this, Ryushi's power boiled, and he immediately wanted to freeze time and space. But at this time, Garashi suddenly shouted, "Niji, stop him." Niji, who was possessed by Kagaya and was swallowed by Ryushi, suddenly woke up. "Is Sensei calling me?" Although his willpower was very weak, dragon form was also under the influence of the intelligence-lowering halo. With both sides working together, dragon form suddenly lost control of his body. On the other side, Aizen flew towards Garashi and said, "Tonari, Karen, from now on, treat him as me and work for my will." Tonari's eyes were red. "Impossible, I only know Aizen-sama. Even if I die, please let me follow you." After saying that, Tonari turned into a red light and followed. Six Paths' expression changed. Something's wrong. He wants to use his power to affect the balance and force Aizen's will to gain the upper hand? Thinking of this, Six Paths also turned into a light and flew towards Garashi. "Take it, this is my last chakra." Chapter 640. Seeing Norihito and Rikudo turn into chakra, the rest of the people were infected by their faith and shouted that they wanted to give their power to Seiji. But the problem is, they don't have the body structure of Otsutsuki, so they can't transform their power into chakra. On the other side, Ryushi finally broke free from the influence of Niji's halo. But it was too late to stop it. Looking at Shushi's aura skyrocketing and overlapping with the image of Clearwater Demon in his mind, Longshire's heart couldn't help but beat violently. How could this be? Could it be that Shimizu Shushi didn't defeat Aizen? Ryoshi muttered to himself, suddenly remembering that Aizen's information was completely blocked, and the fog in his heart finally dissipated. I understand, after the war, he erased other people's memories of the war, not to damage Aizen's reputation, but to guard against me. I have long been a part of this closed loop of time. Thinking of this, Ryoshi was almost desperate. If even his arrival was a part of fate, then how could he resist? However, as someone who came from a more desperate era, Otsutsuki wasn't going to sit still and wait for death. Holding the mentality of a broken jar, Longshire said to himself with a ferocious expression, even if I die, I will peel off a layer of skin from your body. Isn't it just eating? If you eat, I will eat too. Ryoshi teleported to Ichushi's side and reached out to grab him. Ichushi was in a mess when he suddenly saw Ryoshi grabbing him. He couldn't help but shout, Ryoshi, what do you want to do? Ryoshi grabbed Ichushi's hands, for Otsutsuki's future, give me your power. Ichushi tried to resist, you came from the future, took the initiative, and made a mess of things. You are simply a waste. It is not reliable to give power to a waste like you. Ryoshi's mouth twitched slightly. He now suspected that Ichushi's disgrace in the family history was because of him. After all, his information would be blocked by Shimizu Garashi, and only Ichushi's information could be spread. Of course, he would certainly not give up the important task of saving Otsutsuki. Ichushi still wanted to say something, but suddenly his face changed. My power. What did you do to me? Ryoshi's tone was cold. Have you ever wondered why our patriarch wanted to share the chakra fruit with you? You mean, when he distributed the chakra, he left a back door in the chakra? Correct. Unfortunately, there is no reward. After devouring Ichushi's power, Ryoshi reached hand. Although Ichushi hasn't been able to resist, his strength was still far from Ryoshi's power. He was almost unable to resist Two's power. He was devoured almost couldn't resist almost couldn't resist. He looked was power. He's was to see a huge energy ball to Two's him. The S's was S%. S. Longshire opened his mouth and spat out a bunch of profanities. He was wondering why the process of absorbing the power of the peach style was so smooth. It turned out that it was waiting for him here. In his mind, he quickly recalled the records related to the Vitality Bomb. It was the bloodline snare developed by Clearwater Demon King. It was a super powerful attack after absorbing the vitality of all living beings. For experts at their level, their vitality was terrifyingly strong. It was not difficult for them to come back from the dead. However, if they were destroyed by the primordial chi bomb, they would truly be annihilated. They would not be resurrected, unless the other party had retained fragments of their body during the attack. Damn it, I can't think of a way. Longshire's heart beat violently, and his breathing became more and more rapid. But at this moment, his eyes suddenly lit up. That's right, Clearwater Demon King can borrow the vitality of all living beings, but I can also borrow Bright Knight's strength. Thinking of this, Dragon Form used the part of Bright Knight chakra in his body to connect with Bright Knight's main body under the moon's seal, forcibly stealing Bright Knight's power. In the next moment, an energy ball as large as the primordial energy bomb took shape in his hand. Seeing that both sides had concentrated all their strength into this attack, the people who were lying on the ground after sacrificing their vitality broke out in cold sweat. A collision of this level wouldn't destroy the planet under their feet, right? In the half-expectant and half-frightened eyes of everyone, the two huge energy balls collided together. Boom! Everyone felt their souls tremble, and their consciousness became muddled. They fainted directly. Only a few people could barely stay awake under such a fierce collision. In their field of vision, a stalwart figure stood in front of them, opened a shield, and blocked the aftermath of the battle. They didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but they seemed to hear Longshire's screams and curses. It seemed to be because of someone named Kimimaro. But who was Kimimaro? After an unknown amount of time, the crowd woke up one after another. Is the battle over? Who won? It must be the leader who won. If the enemy won, do you think you can wake up? It seems to be the case. Wait, this is... Everyone was shocked to find that they were standing in the starry sky, and under their feet were the floating remains of a planet. The moon was really broken. We can breathe in here. Is it because of the leader? By the way, where is the leader? Suddenly, a little light came from the dark starry sky. This light expanded infinitely, dazzling like the sun, and everyone couldn't open their eyes. Finally, these lights retracted, and Garashi's figure replaced them. This is my current strength. Garashi closed his eyes and felt the surging power in his body. After absorbing the entire battlefield and all of Otsutsuki's chakra, his strength had reached a peak. Even he himself couldn't judge how strong he was now. If I erupt with all my strength, maybe I can make some smaller stars fall into extinction? Garashi commented in his heart, and with a step, he returned to the crowd. Everyone was ecstatic, and when they were about to ask the doubts in their hearts, Garashi raised his index finger. Wait a moment, let me move the wrong track back to the right track. The next moment, Rikudo, Tonari, Niji, Kimimaro, and everyone who was killed by Long Shur were all resurrected. The resurrected people were at a loss, not knowing what happened. The rest of the people were stunned for a moment, and then they were ecstatic. Ning-ji, I thought you were dead for sure. You seem to have died again. Why are you dying so frequently? Brother Tonari, Lord Aizen, just as everyone was getting excited, an incomparably terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the center of the shattered moon. A noble and elegant figure flew out from the meteorite, and looked at Garashi with cold eyes. Obviously, this look was not a kind one. Everyone's heart trembled, and sure enough, there was a big battle. They looked at the figure in front of them with some worry. The leader just used such a powerful move. Would he still have the strength to fight? It's all thanks to you guys. I've finally been released from endless loneliness, and in return, puff. Before she finished speaking, Garashi teleported in front of Kagaya and punched her in the stomach. Kagaya's eyes bulged, and she spat out a large mouthful of blood, directly losing the ability to fight. Then Garashi flew back with Kagaya by her collar. Everyone stared at Kagaya, wondering if she was someone else using a transformation technique to disguise herself. Kagaya was supposed to be the strongest in her complete form, but she was defeated with one punch. It was inexplicable. Kagaya's eyes were empty, and she looked like she was asking, "Where am I? Who am I? What am I doing?" He was doubting his life. Garashi brought Kagaya in front of the 6 paths. Immortal, what do you think should be done with Kagaya? The 6 paths looked at Kagaya with a complicated expression, then sighed. Mother has done many wrong things, let's just kill her. A mother and a filial son. Garashi thought for a moment. Logically speaking, she should be put to death. But since she still has some achievements in this world, and she is your mother, I will spare her life and take away her power instead. With that, Garashi dispersed Kagaya's power. 6 paths and Severin, who had absorbed 90% of the chakra, were once again filled with chakra. As for the others, they didn't have any direct hatred for Kagaya. If they had to talk about hatred, it could only be Niji. But of course, Niji wouldn't deny Garashi's proposal, so no one raised any objections. After dealing with Kagaya's matter, Garashi looked around at everyone. An era of humiliation has ended. From today onwards, we are no longer Otsutsuki's cattle and sheep, but their gravediggers, and we will bury their era. Listen, the horn to counterattack Otsutsuki has been blown. Everyone was excited, and they shouted, "Counterattack Otsutsuki." End of book. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.